Chapter 30, 731, Fighting Two Universe-Level Talents Alone. Bastard, Zhuolongyi participates. 5. There was no fairness in dealing with dark apparitions. The vampire dark apparition's talent astounded them. They needed to get rid of him first. If he advanced to the high-tier Devil Emperor level in the future, they would be in trouble. Boom! The blood god clone didn't waste any time. He turned into a beam of blood-red light and charged forward. After all, he wasn't a real dark apparition. He couldn't kill these two top talents from the light universe. He was just stalling for time. Boom, boom, boom. Thus, the three of them started fighting in the void. They seemed to be evenly matched. Adehoj and Yulujin thought that he was only so powerful. They had the illusion that they could kill him. It's time for us to act. On the other side, the top talents from the various dark apparition races got up from their thrones and stared coldly at the talents from the light universe. Boom, boom, boom. As they stood up, a powerful dark aura surged out and swept towards the front. All the talents from the light universe turned grim. Ha ha ha. Let's start hunting. The banquet has started. Roar. Excited roars came from the mouths of the dark apparitions. In an instant, all the dark apparitions started moving. They surged forward like a terrifying black tide. Many talented martial warriors from the light universe turned pale when they saw this scene. They felt their hearts trembling in fear. They were all talents, but they had never seen such a terrifying scene. It was like the end of the world. Darkness swept over as if it was trying to cover everything, dimming the light in people's hearts. They're just some dark apparitions. What's there to be afraid of? Die, die, die. However, among the talents in the light universe, there were many powerful martial warriors who ascended on the air. Powerful auras soared into the sky as they roared in anger. In an instant, battle intent surged. The talents from the light universe were also affected by this battle intent. They roared in anger and their morale was boosted. Boom, boom, boom. The next instant, both parties charged forward and a huge battle erupted. The scene transformed chaotic. Many meteorites exploded under the impact of the force attacks. Dark apparitions died one by one, and the talents from the light universe spilled their blood on the ground. The thick stench of blood filled up the entire area. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, sonic booms were heard from afar. Crimson rays of light appeared in everyone's vision. The solar dragon race is here. Who can fight us? An exclamation was heard. A figure that looked like a shooting star slammed into the dark apparitions. He waved his fists and killed a few mid-tier devil emperors in an instant. Zhuolongyi. It's the universe-level talent of the solar dragon race, Zhuolongyi. He's also a talent of the Stellar Academy and a counselor of the Arbitration Association. He's extremely powerful. That's great. The Solar Dragon race has indeed prepared a backup plan. Don't be afraid. We still have a chance. Let's kill them together. The talents from the light universe were overjoyed when they saw the appearance of the talents from the Solar Dragon race. They roared in anger. Solar Dragon race. A roar was heard. Then a giant devil race dark apparition dashed over and swung his fist at Zhuolongyi. This was a dark apparition at the high-tier devil emperor level. It was extremely powerful. Zhuolongyi's gaze transformed sharp. He didn't dare to be careless and welcomed the attack instantly. Boom! An intense battle ensued. The two parties exchanged blows and started a melee battle in space. Every punch hit its mark. It was exceptionally powerful. The extreme violence was apparent on both parties. Both the Solar Dragon race and the Giant Devil race were known for their powerful physiques. The battle techniques they used were also suitable for close combat. Thus, when they collided, the impact was extremely strong. So scary. Some dark apparitions and the talents from the light universe swallowed their saliva uncontrollably. They were flabbergasted. Not bad. The high-tier devil emperor gave a sinister smile. A terrifying dark aura erupted from his body as he roared, giant apparition physique, activate. Boom. Black patterns appeared on his muscular body, shimmering with black light. Terrifying power surged out of his body, causing his body to expand rapidly. In an instant, he was a few hundred feet tall. At the same time, a huge battle axe congregated in the hand of the dark apparition from the giant devil race. He slashed it down at Zhuolong-Yi. Crack! A huge pitch-black dimensional rift appeared in the air. Terrifying spatial turbulence swept out. Zhuolong-Yi's expression changed. He didn't have the time to execute his solar dragon physique and roared in anger. Boundless world power erupted from his body and turned into the outline of a small world above his head. It resisted the huge axe glow. Boom! Within a split second, when he released the outline of the small world, the frightening axe glow had already landed on it. A deafening explosion occurred. Cracks started to appear on Zhuolong-Yi's small world. The edges started to collapse and he flew out uncontrollably. What? The talents from the light universe were appalled when they saw this scene. Chapter 3732 Solar Dragon Physique of Zhuolong-Yi. Devil Transformation of the Giant Devil Race. Danger. 1. Boom. The outline of Zhuolong-Yi's small world was vibrating, and the edge was collapsing. His expression was ugly, and a trace of blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. He had suffered some injuries from the attack just now. The talents from the light universe were flabbergasted. When Zhuolong-Yi appeared, they thought that there were reinforcements, so their morale was greatly boosted. Who would have thought that a high-tier devil emperor would be able to defeat Zhuolong-Yi? Were these dark apparition talents really so powerful? Not far away, Zhuolong Shuang was fighting with a dark apparition at the peak of the mid-tier devil emperor stage. Her expression changed slightly when she saw this scene from afar. She knew clearly how powerful Zhuolong-Yi was. They seemed to be at loggerheads most of the time, but she never dared to underestimate Zhuolong-Yi's ability. Yet, in front of a high-tier devil emperor, Zhuolong-Yi was at a disadvantage. This was surprising. Boom! On the other side, Xiao Jai and Arves exchanged a blow. Both parties retreated far away. Xiao Jai glanced at Zhuolong-Yi and sniggered. So this is how talented the solar dragon race is. I was wondering how powerful my race was after snatching a solar dragon race corpse. Arves turned serious. He could already feel how powerful this devil mind dark apparition was. Under his control, the sheephead dark apparition was able to release terrifying power. To him, they were stronger than the sheephead devil race dark apparitions in the distance. This was a little outrageous. The body controlled by the devil mind race was just an inanimate object. How did it reach this stage? The devil mind dark apparitions were indeed strange. Roar! Zhuolong-Yi's eyes turned dark red when he perceived Xiao Jai's ridicule. There seemed to be a ball of flame burning in them. Boom! The next instant, a ball of dark red flame swept out from his body and engulfed him. It swept through the air like a fire dragon. Solar Dragon Physique. The blood god clone squinted and looked over. It had been a long time since his solar dragon physique rose. He wondered if Zhuolong-Yi could give him some surprises. Once his solar dragon physique increased, his true dragon battle physique fake would increase too. Wang Teng liked this powerful battle physique very much. The clone understood it clearly. Thus, when he saw Zhuolong-Yi preparing to execute the solar dragon physique, he started to get excited. Solar dragon physique. Adehoj was interested too. He looked at Zhuolong-Yi and muttered to himself. Oh right, there's also the golden dragon race. I think they have a similar dragon race physique, right? The blood god clone suddenly looked at Adehoj with a sharp glint in his eyes. Due to the situation on Zhuolong-Yi's side, they temporarily stopped their attacks. At this moment, they were all attracted by that side. Even Xiao Jai was stunned. He had heard many times about how powerful the body of the solar dragon race was. Now he wanted to witness it personally. I hope it won't disappoint me. Xiao Jai chuckled in his heart. Roar. A strange dragon's roar came from the mouth of the giant dragon shaped from dark red flames. It shook the air. Then, a huge body gradually emerged from the dark red flames. A huge dragon head emerged from the flames. Thin dark red scales covered the head, and the pair of dragon horns gave off a noble aura. However, this wasn't a complete dragon's head. From the front, it looked like a human face. It retained a trace of Zhuolongyi's facial features. It was strange and yet harmonious. It's so ugly. Even though the blood god clone inherited many memories from the main body and knew how the solar dragon race looked like after executing the complete solar dragon physique, he couldn't help but complain when he saw this scene. Roar! Zhuolongyi looked at the blood god clone with his giant dragon head. His eyes were filled with coldness. "Why are you looking at me? Why can't I say that you're ugly?" The blood god clone pouted. Silence. Everyone was speechless. Everyone was astounded by the solar dragon physique of the solar dragon race, but this fellow was paying attention to the beauty of the other party. Wasn't his focus a little crooked? "The solar dragon race doesn't have the purest dragon bloodline," a Dehoj said. Roar! Zhuolongyi was infuriated. Waves of heat spurted out of his mouth. If he didn't have to deal with the dark apparitions, he would have charged over and fought with a Dehoj. Zhuolong Shuang and the other talents from the solar dragon race glared at him too. No one looked down on their race. How could they act as if nothing had happened? A Dehoj, stop talking. Yulujin was speechless. He also felt that the solar dragon physique wasn't good, but as long as it was strong enough, he didn't have to care. This is interesting. The giant devil Emperor Dark Apparition gave a hideous smile. He pushed his huge body forward and grabbed Zhuolongyi's huge body with his big hand. Boom! The air vibrated. Explosions were heard in space because of the giant hand. It couldn't withstand the frightening power. The power of a high-tier devil emperor was terrifying. It was enough to destroy a planetary sector. If no one stopped him, a normal planetary sector wouldn't be able to withstand the damage of a high-tier devil emperor dark apparition. Chapter 30, 733 Solar Dragon Physique of Zhuolongyi. Devil Transformation of the Giant Devil Race. Danger. 2. Roar. Zhuolongyi's huge body was enveloped in the dark red solar dragon flames. It burst with a bang and swung its huge dragon tail out. Bang! A terrifying explosion occurred. The dragon tail left an afterimage in the air as it slammed into the giant devil race dark apparition's hand. The hideous expression on the giant devil race dark apparition's face stilled for a second. His eyes widened and his entire body fell backwards. Gasp! There was an uproar. Everybody didn't expect Zhuolongyi to become so powerful after executing the solar dragon physique. Xiao Jai got interested too. He realized that he seemed to have underestimated the solar dragon race. This body was interesting. Roar! The giant devil race dark apparition turned angry from embarrassment. His body was covered with black mist as he forcefully stabilized his huge and muscular body in the void. The battle axe in his other hand slashed down on Zhuolongyi again. Boom! A huge axe glow appeared in the air. Dark force gathered and turned into a pitch-black battle axe shadow. Zhuolongyi didn't back down either. He opened his mouth and roared in anger. A dazzling dark red glow congregated inside, and scorching heat spread out. The space around the dark red ball of light started to distort. It couldn't withstand the high temperature. Die! The giant devil race dark apparition smiled hideously. He slashed his giant battle axe down viciously as if he wanted to chop Zhuolongyi into two. Boom! The dark red ball of light in Zhuolongyi's mouth exploded and turned into a beam of light. It slammed towards the giant devil race dark apparition's battle axe shadow. For a moment, space seemed to have stopped. The two attacks froze on the spot. They were at a standstill. However, this stalemate didn't last for long. Cracking sounds were heard. Then everyone saw numerous cracks appearing on the giant battle axe. How is this possible? The high-tier devil Emperor Ebony apparition found it unbelievable. His attack, which contained the power of the world, was shattered by his opponent. Boom! But before he could react, a violent explosion occurred. The giant battle axe couldn't withstand it anymore and exploded. The beam of light released by Zhulongyi shot towards the giant devil race dark apparition. Roar! The high-tier devil emperor squinted. He roared in anger and black light surged out of his body. He wanted to resist the attack of the dark red beam of light. Before the beam of light landed, the scorching heat had already swept over. It burned the giant devil race dark apparition's body, causing him to feel a scorching pain on his terrifying body. This was unbelievable. He had already activated his giant apparition physique, so his physique was astonishing. Even the dark constellation force he released was enough to withstand the high temperature. Yet it couldn't resist the scorching heat of the dark red pillar of light. How could he not be astounded? But there was no time to think. Boom! The next instant, the dark red pillar of light slammed into his gigantic body under his unbelievable gaze. It was too huge and too obvious a target. In this situation, it was hard to hide even if he wanted to. Terrifying energy erupted from the dark red pillar of light. It engulfed the giant devil race dark apparition in an instant, and an awe-inspiring roar came from within. Frightening heat swept in all directions. Many dark apparitions and talents from the light universe were astounded. They quickly retreated and didn't dare to get any closer. Xiao Jai squinted when he saw this scene. However, there was a hint of excitement in the depth of his eyes. The body of the solar dragon race. As expected, it wasn't ordinary. At this moment, the sheephead devil apparition stuck out a long and big tongue from his mouth and licked his lips as if he was looking at something delicious. On the other side, Adehoj turned serious too. He didn't like the appearance of the solar dragon race after they transformed, but he had to admit that Zhulongyi's talent and ability weren't weak. As expected of a universe-level talent, Zhulongyi's solar dragon physique can't be compared to Zhulongshan's. A crimson glow appeared in the blood god clone's eyes as he muttered to himself. If someone saw him, they would realize that his gaze was almost the same as Xiao Jai's. Even though their goals were different, they were undoubtedly extremely interested in Zhulongyi's body. Roar! In the air, Zhulongyi's huge body suddenly raised his head and let out a proud and angry roar to show how powerful he was. However, he immediately felt a chill for no reason. What was with the devil mind race's gaze? He turned to look at Xiao Jai and noticed that the other party was sizing up his body with a burning gaze. He immediately realized that the other party was coveting his body. He was infuriated. "You're looking for death!" Zhulongyi roared at Xiao Jai furiously. He stared at Xiao Jai with his dark red dragon eyes. There seemed to be dark red flames burning in them. "Ha ha ha! You should take care of yourself first," Xiao Jai sneered. "Be careful!" a shout came from the side. The person who spoke was Zhulong Shuang. Her eyes widened as if she saw something astonishing. Zhulongyi immediately felt an even more evil aura erupting from his back. It even broke through his solar dragon flame and headed straight for him. Chapter 37-34 Solar Dragon Physique of Zhulongyi. Devil Transformation of the Giant Devil Race. Danger. 3. He turned his head abruptly and saw pitch-black tentacles shooting out from the dark red flames and sweeping towards him. Before he could react, they had already wrapped around his body. Roar! Zhulongyi roared in anger. His huge body twisted frantically. The solar dragon flame wrapped around his body and burned the pitch-black tentacles, trying to break free. The tentacles were made of flesh and blood. Crimson eyeballs were embedded on them. They looked evil. Under the burning of the flames, the flesh and eyeballs kept falling off, giving off a disgusting burnt stench. However, dark force seeped out of the tentacles continuously, repairing the terrifying tentacles at a visible speed. For a moment, Zhulongyi's solar dragon flame couldn't do anything to the terrifying black tentacles. Roar! An angry roar came from behind. The giant devil race dark apparition dashed out from the solar dragon flame. At this moment, its appearance had changed entirely. The flesh on its body had expanded, and the muscular feeling was gone. It had become extremely bloated. Its entire body was like a huge and ugly piece of meat covered with strange crimson eyeballs and mouths that kept opening and closing. Black tentacles stretched out from all parts of its body. Extremely evil and dark aura emanated out from the giant devil race dark apparition's body. It swept through the universe and caused the expressions of the talents in the light universe to change. They were appalled. Devil transformation. Then, a cry of horror erupted from someone's mouth, causing a huge uproar. All the talents in the light universe stared at the huge and ugly giant devil race dark apparition in astonishment. The devil transformation of a high-tier devil emperor. What a terrifying scene. This was the first time the Cosmos Realm and Heaven Realm martial warriors saw it. The giant devil race dark apparition's body was like a source of contagion. It gave off a terrifying and evil dark aura. Just looking at it made people uncomfortable. Many Cosmos stage martial warriors were confused when they saw this terrifying presence. A strange blood-red color appeared in their eyes and spread to their eyeballs. "Don't look at it," Arves shouted. He looked at the giant devil race dark apparition grimly, and a pure white battle bow appeared in his hand. Light force gathered in his body and turned into multiple light arrows. He shot them at his opponent. Swoosh, 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 sonic booms were heard. The light arrows turned into a few rays of white light and landed on the giant devil race dark apparition. Boom, boom, boom. Multiple balls of blood mist erupted from the bloated body. Both the dark force and the terrifying flesh melted under the purification of the light force. A few huge bloody holes were left on the body. Dark red blood spurted out continuously. Roar. The giant devil race dark apparition roared loudly. The eyeballs on its body looked at Arves in unplanned unison. There was evilness and bitterness in their gazes. Bang, bang, bang. However, at this moment, Zhuolongyi finally took the chance to break free from the grip of the black tentacles. A dark red pillar of light erupted from his mouth again and shot towards the giant devil race dark apparition. Boom. The terrifying flames exploded on the giant devil race dark apparition and engulfed him once again. However, this time, the giant devil race dark apparition bore with it forcefully. His entire body was engulfed in flames, and his huge and bloated body seemed indestructible. It rumbled in the air as it charged towards Zhuolongyi. Zhuolongyi's gaze turned grave. He glanced at the giant devil race dark apparition charging towards him and roared. He charged forward, unwilling to back down. They were both talents of the same level. How could he be willing to lose to this giant devil race dark apparition? Arves' help just now was enough to make him unhappy. He felt that he didn't rely on his own strength to break free. Hence, he wanted to kill this giant devil race dark apparition and let everyone witness the true strength of Zhuolongyi. Boom, boom, boom. The two huge bodies started a fierce battle in the void. The other talents from the light universe regained their senses after Arves' reminder. They stopped looking at the giant devil race dark apparition and started attacking the dark apparitions around them. Their faces were pale and they had lingering fears. "How dare you get distracted when you're fighting with me?" Xiao Jai was infuriated when he noticed Arves dealing with the giant devil race dark apparition. A terrifying aura erupted from the sheephead devil race's body. He flapped the flesh wings behind his back and transformed into lingering shadows. His speed increased exponentially and he arrived in front of Arves in an instant. A battle sword appeared in his hand and he slashed it down. A terrifying dark red sword glow erupted. This was the ability of the sheephead devil race dark apparition. It contained the power of darkness and flames too. It was extremely powerful. Huh! Arves turned serious. He wanted to shoot another arrow at the giant devil race dark apparition, but he couldn't do it now. He could only deal with the devil mind dark apparition with all his might. The long spear in his hand gave off a dazzling white glow. Rays of spear glow swept out and collided with the sword glow. Chapter 30, 735 Solar Dragon Physique of Zhulong Yi. Devil Transformation of the Giant Devil Race. Danger. 4. Boom. Both attacks were destroyed in the void. Arv's light force could suppress the dark force, but this devil mind dark apparition in front of him wasn't easy to deal with. Even with his strength, he couldn't suppress it. Ha ha ha! An ear-piercing laughter came out of Xiaojai's mouth. The outline of a huge small world suddenly appeared above his head. Dark flame force was surging inside, and dark red lava was flowing in the small world like a river. Whether it was the sky or the ground, there were lava rivers everywhere. Arv squinted. He was shocked and didn't dare to be careless. The outline of a small world appeared above his head. This small world was unique. The glaring holy white light shone in all directions. No one could see anything. They could only see a vast expanse of white. After the small world appeared, the dark force was dispersed and purified. The martial warriors in the light universe felt much more relaxed. The feeling of being suppressed by the dark apparitions disappeared instantly. On the other hand, the dark apparitions were having a hard time. The dark force was suppressed, and the extremely thick light force spread out. They felt uncomfortable, as if they were getting purified. Many dark apparitions retreated uncontrollably, keeping their distance from the shadow of the small world filled with the power of light. This was astonishing. This was just a projection, but it already had such a strange effect. If the real small world appeared in this universe, what kind of divine power would it possess? A light element martial warrior is indeed powerful. Xiaojai turned serious when he noticed the domain. No matter how arrogant it was, it didn't dare to underestimate a light element martial warrior at the same level. Light element was the dark apparition's nemesis. Arvs didn't reply to him. He controlled the small world above his head and pushed it forward. HMPH, Xiaojai snorted. The dark red outline of the small world pushed out too. Explosions shook the air as if it wanted to obliterate everything. Boom! In an instant, the two small worlds collided. The dark flame and the light force collided violently, corroding and obliterating each other. They were at a standstill. On the other side of the battlefield, the talented martial warriors from the Stellar Academy were having a huge battle with the dark apparitions. One by one, the talented martial warriors charged towards the dark apparitions and started fighting with them. Blood splattered in the sky. Among the talents from the 7th Stellar Academy, the members of the Constellation Society were gathered together and fighting with a bunch of lazy mist dark apparitions. The lazy mist dark apparitions were rare in the light universe. Even on the battlefield on the defense planet, there were very few of them. However, today, many dark apparitions from the lazy mist race appeared here. They were the talents of this race. Their methods were strange and they were extremely powerful. The members of the Constellation Society weren't weak, but this was their first time facing a lazy mist dark apparition. They didn't know the new enemy's skills, so they were at a disadvantage. Boom! Wade was entangled by a low-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition. Thick black mist filled up the air, scaring him into retreating. Wow, this mist is so hard to deal with. It follows me wherever I go. There's no end to it, he shouted as he dodged. Human die. The low-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition got impatient. A long whip appeared in his hand and he lashed it at Wade. Boom! When the long whip was swung, black mist gathered and turned into a black giant python. It stared at Wade with its crimson eyes and flicked its tongue as if it was alive. The scarier thing was, there were many numb faces on the body of the giant python formed from mist. They seemed lifeless and full of laziness. Wade wanted to dodge, but when he saw the faces, there was a hint of confusion in his eyes. He seemed to have lost interest in everything. He didn't want to resist the giant python at all. Since dark apparitions were so scary, he might as well die. "Stupid fatty!" A loud shout came from the side. It was like a thunderous explosion. Reynolds was the closest to Wade. He perceived Wade's abnormality and immediately reminded him. There was lightning in his voice. Wade shuddered and his gaze swiveled clear again. The hint of laziness disappeared without a trace. He looked at the giant python that was less than 100 meters away. His expression altered slightly, and he slashed his battle axes out without any hesitation. Roar! Flames swept out, and the outline of a giant beast appeared. Then, the flames congregated and turned into axe glows as they slashed towards the giant python. Boom! The axe glow landed on the giant python's head. The giant python hissed and turned into mist. That was dangerous. Wade still had lingering fears. He patted his chest and retreated immediately. He shouted, "Thank you, Reynolds." "Be careful, don't die," Reynolds shouted. "Fatty, what happened just now?" Yue Kikea was being held up by another lazy mist dark apparition. However, she noticed the situation here and asked loudly, "That giant python is a little strange. The face on it seems to contain a strange power. It's very similar to the mist. After some time, you will become lazy and even lose your instinct to live. I cherish my life so much, but I almost stood there and waited for death." Chapter 3736 Solar Dragon Physique of Zhulong Yi. Devil Transformation of the Giant Devil Race. Danger. 5. He still felt his heart palpitating when he thought about this. He looked at the lazy mist dark apparition in the distance with fear. HMPH, so what if you know? Can you stop the lazy mist from the lazy mist race? The low-tier devil emperor sneered. This bunch of talents from the light universe are quite powerful. Let's work together to take care of them. Another lazy mist dark apparition said coldly. All right, let's end this quickly. We can't let other races beat us to it. The lazy mist dark apparitions immediately gave up their attacks and gathered together. They attracted a large area of black mist and congregated it in the center. What are they doing? Wade, Reynolds, Beichuan Liu, Yu Yunxian, Yue Kikeo, Tai Beisha, and the other talents turned grim when they noticed this. They gathered together and looked at the lazy mist dark apparition opposite them. Be careful, the skills of this lazy mist race are a little strange. Wu Yan turned serious and said in a low voice, I've seen records of this race. The mist they use is called the lazy mist. It can make people lazy and it's hard to guard against it. Tai Beisha, can your light force block their mist? Yue Kikeo turned and asked. If it's a one-on-one fight, I can still suppress them, but if they work together now. Tai Beisha shook her head. She didn't finish her sentence, but everyone understood what she meant. Boom! Under the combined efforts of the lazy mist dark apparitions, a large patch of black mist had already spread over and enveloped the entire space. From the outside, it looked like a large bowl formed from black mist. It was upside down, enveloping the martial warriors from the Constellation Society. Oh my God! Vice President, what should we do? We're surrounded. Damn it, why are the lazy mist dark apparitions so hard to deal with? The martial warriors from the Constellation Society kept closing in on him. They attacked the black mist frantically, but they couldn't break it. All their attacks were like rocks sinking into the sea. There was no impact. They had no choice but to retreat and get closer to Yue Kikeo and the others. In the eyes of the Constellation Society, except their president, Yue Kikeo, Yu Yunxian, Reynolds, and the others were the most powerful presences. Now that their president was gone, they were like the backbone of the society. Let's attack together. We can't let the lazy mist touch us. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable, Wu Yan said grimly. That's the only way. Reynolds and the others nodded. They released their strongest attacks without any hesitation and threw them at the thick black mist. Outside, on a battlefield, the martial warriors from the Qingyan Society were having a huge battle too. Ryuan Banlian and the others were having a hard time dealing with the Phantasma martial warriors. However, they were stronger, so they weren't in a desperate situation. Also, the Qingyan Society sent 2 universe-level talents. They weren't as powerful as Feng Qingyan, but they were powerful too. They were able to protect the members of the Qingyan Society temporarily. Yuan Banlian was stunned when she noticed the members of the Constellation Society getting surrounded by the black mist. Then, a cold smile appeared on her face. The Constellation Society is looking for death. They will die in the hands of the dark apparitions without the help of the Qingyan Society. No one can save them. How dare a bunch of Cosmos stage martial warriors come to the battlefield? They don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Their deaths are in vain. A martial warrior from the Qingyan Society shook his head when he saw this scene. After Wang Teng died, the Constellation Society only exists in name. Disappearing is just a matter of time. What a pity for those talents. Another martial warrior from the Constellation Society said with pity. The universe is cruel, survival of the fittest. Even if they don't die in the hands of the dark apparitions, they will be swallowed by other factions one day. Their ending has been decided since they chose to follow Wang Teng, Yuan Banlian said coldly. When Ningfu, Gadon, Qi Lian Feng and the other talents took some time during the battle to look into the distance, they were elated. The talents from the Constellation Society were finally going to die. They had been suppressed too much in the Stellar Academy. They hated the Constellation Society to the core. Now that they were about to die in the hands of the dark apparitions, they felt refreshed. Oh no! Zhulong Shuang was anxious when she saw this scene from afar. She knew that Wang Teng was still alive. If someone from the Constellation Society died here and he knew about it, it would be terrible. However, she was being grasped up by a dark apparition at the peak of the Devil Emperor stage. She didn't have the time to care about anything else. On the other side, the Heaven Stage martial warriors were anxious too. They were Tong In, Yuan Bai, Bai Yao, and many others who were close to Wang Teng. How dare you get distracted when you're fighting with us? A devil armor dark apparition snorted. He congregated a huge devil armor shadow and hurled it at Tong In and the others. Move, Tong In shouted. She held her battle sword and slashed out a huge flaming sword glow. Powerful domain power merged into it as she tried to release the devil armor. However, clang, a metallic sound was heard. When Tong In's sword glow landed on it, sparks were formed. It was unable to break the defense. Chapter 37 Desperate Situation. Yuan Banlian's bedraggled situation. Tong In's determination. Fist of Light. Arrival in a flash. 1. The defense ability of the Devil Armor Dark Apparition was astonishing. This Devil Armor Dark Apparition was at the peak of mid-tier Devil Emperor and was extremely powerful. Even if Tong In and the others were talents from the Stellar Academy, if they were facing normal dark apparitions, Tong In's attack would be enough to break their defense. However, in front of dark apparitions of the same level, they didn't have any advantage. The power of the dark apparition talents was fully displayed at this moment. Boom! At this moment, the outline of a huge shield smashed down and bore down on the Devil Armor Dark Apparition. Go! Another Heaven Stage martial warrior charged towards him with his battle sword. Blue force twirled around the blade of his sword. The power of domain was instilled in it, giving off a terrifying power. Boom! The sword landed on the Devil Armor Dark Apparition. The Devil Armor shadow around the Devil Armor Dark Apparition started vibrating. Cracks finally appeared. Roar! The Devil Armor Dark Apparition at the peak of mid-tier Devil Emperor level roared in anger. He controlled the Devil Armor shadow and hurled punches at the sword glow. The power was astonishing and ferocious. Clang, 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 metallic clangs resounded in the air. The sword glow vibrated violently and cracks appeared on it. They spread to the entire body of the sword. Let's hold back the Devil Armor Dark Apparitions. Tong In, hurry up and go over. Qin Quan's gaze was serious, but he still shouted when he saw this scene. Tong En only hesitated for a moment. He glanced at his team members and nodded firmly. Then he dashed away. Trying to run away, a mid-tier Devil Emperor Devil Armor Dark Apparition shouted and charged towards Tong En. The terrifying Devil Armor shadow enveloped the sky and clawed at Tong En. In front of this huge Devil Armor shadow, Tong En's small body seemed even smaller. She was like a flying ant that just wanted to break free from the giant's hand. "Go away," Tong En shouted. The power of domain in her body exploded and turned into a sword glow a few thousand feet long. It soared into the sky and slashed down. Boom! This time, the Devil Armor apparition was chopped into two. The two hands crumbled in midair and the Devil Armor Dark apparition flew out from the apparition. Tong En's face was a little pale, but she still gritted her teeth and rushed towards the members of the Constellation Society at the speed of lightning. She had overloaded her force reserves and the sword attack just now exhausted much of her energy. She wouldn't be able to recover anytime soon. She dashed towards the members of the Constellation Society while dodging the attacks of the dark apparitions around her. At the same time, she took out a pill to replenish her force. Boom, boom, boom. On the inverted bowl formed by the black mist, attacks were fired continuously, causing the bowl to tumble violently like boiling black water. It was appalling. However, the lazy mist dark apparitions around them just sneered and stared at the spot where the black mist was congregating. Their gazes were filled with contempt. The lazy mist formed by all of them wasn't easy to destroy. The martial warriors in the light universe were just at the cosmos realm. They were at the same level as them, so they couldn't break through the thick, lazy mist. The members of the Constellation Society released their most powerful attacks in the black mist and hurled them in the same direction. Yue Kikyo held her battle sword. The sound of water splashing could be heard. A round moon rose in her domain. It was dreamy and hazy. Then a sword glow slashed out as if it came from the moon. Beichuan Liu held his battle blade and his figure turned blurry. 5 rays of blue light shot out from his body and turned into 5 clones. Those clones were exactly the same as Beichuan Liu. It was impossible to differentiate who was the true form and who was the clone. They attacked at the same time. A terrifying blade glow imbued with the power of domain slashed towards the black mist. Borat was among the crowd too. He raised his domain and turned it into a dense forest. Numerous vines shot out from within. The veins broke the instant they launched out. Then they turned into javelins. Some contained the power of fire while others contained the power of lightning. They shot out at the speed of lightning. Tai Beisha acted too. The light battle sword formed numerous scorching sword glows. They were holy and bright. A domineering aura appeared above Yu Yunxian's head. This was a special domain. Numerous golden sword glows erupted. Lu Tian waved his battle sword. Terrifying bloodlust engulfed his body and turned into a death domain. It was filled with killing intent and terrifying attacking power. Wu Yan gripped a pitch-black longbow in his hand. Rays of arrows filled with poison congregated and descended down from the sky like raindrops. Reynolds held his battle blade. The power of lightning was like the might of heaven. Thunder roared and turned into blade glows. These talents from the Stellar Academy were all powerful. If their stages were high enough, they wouldn't be forced into this state by the lazy mist dark apparitions. Even so, their combined attack shouldn't be underestimated. Boom! A terrifying explosion occurred. The attacks of the talents from the Constellation Society landed on a certain spot, causing the black mist to tumble violently. Bang! A huge hole finally appeared, revealing the emptiness outside. The lazy mist dark apparitions' expressions changed. They found it unbelievable. They didn't think that the lazy mist they formed together would be destroyed by this bunch of martial warriors from the light universe. "Charge out!" Yue Kikyo shouted. She led everyone towards the hole. Chapter 37-38 Desperate Situation. Ryuan Banlian's bedraggled situation, Tong En's determination, Fist of Light, arrival in a flash. 2. They were already prepared to deal with the dark apparition's attacks. The weapons in their hands gave off a dazzling glow. Once the dark apparitions outside attacked, they would be able to react immediately. Damn it! The lazy mist dark apparition's expressions turned ugly. They started attacking the hole. The lazy mist churned and turned into terrifying giant pythons. They bit Yue Kikyo and the others who were about to rush out. Numb faces appeared on the giant python's body. They stared at them with lifeless eyes. "Don't look at those faces." Yue Kikyo's expression changed as she shouted. "Let me," Tai Beisha shouted in a low voice. The pure white wings behind her flapped abruptly, and she arrived in front of everyone in an instant. A glaring white light blossomed around her body. She wanted to cleanse the terrifying giant python. As expected, light constellation force was the nemesis of dark force. The giant pythons hissed under Tai Beisha's light force and melted in the air as if they were thrown into flames. "Charge out!" Tai Beisha rushed out first. Everyone followed behind her. "Be careful!" However, at this moment an anxious voice was heard from afar. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Boom! Before they could react, a pitch-black giant palm slammed down from the sky, blocking the entire space and blocking their path. "Damn it!" Tai Beisha's expression changed slightly. A dazzling light force erupted from her battle sword as she slashed it at the giant palm. Boom! A loud explosion occurred. A dazzling white sword glow landed on the giant palm. Divine power erupted, attempting to cleanse the dark force on the palm. But this time an unexpected situation occurred. Thick black mist spread out from the giant palm and enveloped the sword glow. It corroded the light force on the sword glow instantly. Bang! The next instant the sword glow disintegrated. All the light force was suppressed by the dark force. Mid-tier Devil Emperor, Tai Beisha's expression changed entirely. Before she could react, the giant black palm had already slammed down. Boom! The palm landed directly on her body. She was thrown off her feet. Yue Kikyo and the others had stopped after her reminder, but they didn't expect this to happen. Their expressions changed when they saw Tai Beisha flying back. They wanted to catch her. "Retreat!" Tai Beisha wanted to remind them, but she vomited a mouth of blood. A huge shadow suddenly appeared in the hole they created just now. It shrouded the figure, and gradually, no one could see what was happening outside. Terrifying dark force surged in. Everyone's expression changed. They didn't have the time to retreat, so they could only release their forces to resist the attack of the giant handprint. Boom! In an instant, a terrifying power surged out from the palm. The force defense around Yue Kikyo and the others collapsed instantly. They vomited a mouth of blood as if they were struck by lightning. Their bodies plummeted down like cannons. "Damn it!" A shout was heard outside. Tong En charged over from afar. Her beautiful face was covered with frost as she slashed her battle sword at a dark apparition at the peak of mid-tier Devil Emperor level. It was a lazy mist dark apparition. It was the one who acted just now. Too late. The dark apparition at the peak of the mid-tier Devil Emperor level sneered. He stretched out his hand from the black mist and pushed it out. Boom! The air vibrated and a hideous pitch-black palm was formed. Numb faces covered the palm and strange, dull eyes stared intently at Tong En. Her head turned numb. Tong En knew how frightening this lazy mist dark apparition was. She immediately closed her eyes and retreated. In an instant, the hideous palm collided with Tong En's sword glow. Crack, crack, crack. A loud explosion was heard. Tong En's sword glow shattered and the flames were dispersed. She couldn't get any closer to the other party. Then the giant palm slammed down on Tong En without stopping. Frightening force fluctuations swept out. Tong En felt the evil dark force surging over from afar. Her face turned pale and she didn't dare to resist it. She could only evade it. "Darn it!" She floated in the air some distance away and clutched her battle sword tightly. She stared at the mid-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition. Fear appeared in her eyes uncontrollably. The moment they exchanged blows, she already knew how troublesome the lazy mist dark apparitions were. No wonder the talents from the Constellation Society were suppressed by the lazy mist dark apparitions. Mind you, the talents from the Constellation Society were the strongest freshmen in the 7th Stellar Academy this year. They were considered the strongest batch, but they were suppressed to this extent. It was unbelievable. Of course, if it wasn't for the mid-tier Devil Emperor, they might have escaped. The Constellation Society didn't have the help of a Heaven Realm martial warrior. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this state. Actually, even she might not be able to evade the mid-tier Devil Emperor's attack. His methods were a little strange and hard to deal with. She couldn't help but look at the area covered by the black mist. The hole had been completely covered, and the entire area was shrouded in the black mist again. She couldn't see the situation inside at all. She wondered how the talents from the Constellation Society were. Chapter 3739 Desperate Situation. Ryuan Banlian's bedraggled situation. Tong En's determination. Fist of Light. Arrival in a flash. 3. You can't pass. The lazy mist dark apparition at the peak of mid-tier Devil Emperor walked towards Tong En step by step. He was covered with black mist and stretched out like tentacles, ready to reach out at any moment. Tong En's gaze flickered slightly. Her heart was filled with seriousness. She had exhausted too much force to rush over just now. She wasn't confident that she could deal with this mid-tier Devil Emperor. There were too many dark apparition talents. If it was a one-on-one fight, they wouldn't be suppressed so badly. However, it was too late now. The talents from the light universe were surrounded. They wouldn't be able to escape without reinforcements. Some distance away, among the martial warriors from the Kingian Society, Ryuan Banlian's gaze flickered. A mocking smile appeared at the edge of her lips. How could a Heaven Stage martial warrior save the people from the Constellation Society? She knew Tong En and had some grudges with her. In the past, Tong En stood on the Constellation Society's side and even offended the Kingian Society. Tong En looked down on her. Ryuan Banlian bore a grudge because of this. Women were never broad-minded, especially women like her. However, she couldn't afford to offend the other party's sister, Tongya. She could only bear with it. She was elated to finally see Tong En suffering a setback. Without Tongya beside her, Tong En was just an ordinary Heaven Realm talent. He was nothing. Did he really think that he was so amazing? She was worse than the vice president of the Kingian Society. Either way, she relied on her own ability, even if it was beauty. What did Tong En have? She just had a good sister. How could any man like her with her shriveled body? Ryuan Banlian was confident that she could suppress her opponent. Cute. It was nothing in front of sexy. HMPH, Ryuan Banlian snorted. She was delighted. A grin appeared on her face uncontrollably as she looked at the people from the Constellation faction in despair and Tong En, who couldn't save them. Boom. At this moment, a loud explosion occurred. Ryuan Banlian's expression changed. Where are you looking at? A cold and beautiful lady with long blood-red hair and wearing a hideous blood-red battle armor appeared not far away from Ryuan Banlian. She held a huge trident and charged towards her. This lady was Zarosa. The vampire dark apparitions had joined the battle too. The opponent Zarosa found was Ryuan Banlian from the Kingian Society. Ryuan Banlian's demeanor turned grim when she saw the vampire lady charging towards her aggressively. She twisted the long whip in her hand violently. Slap! A crisp sound resounded in the air. Emerald green light erupted from the long whip and turned into numerous vine shadows. They swept towards Zarosa. Small tricks, Zarosa sneered. She formed a claw with her other hand and dashed forward, forming a huge blood-red claw. Boom! The giant blood-red claw grabbed the vines and applied force. Slap! Within a split second, the vines were torn apart. Zarosa stabbed her trident out, and a terrifying halberd glow was formed. Ryuan Banlian's expression changed slightly. Honestly, her ability wasn't considered top-tier among the Heaven Realm talents in the Stellar Academies. She was only at the bottom because she relied on the resources provided by Feng Qingyan to raise her ability. She didn't have much battle experience. Compared to the talents from the academies who fought and completed missions all year round, her ability was much weaker. Unfortunately, she was used to living a comfortable life. In the Qingyan society, she was second only to one person and above everyone. Most people didn't dare to offend her, so she didn't know what her ability was. In fact, many people treated it as a joke. They felt that Ryuan Banlian was destroying herself. She was a talent from the Stellar Academy, but after she got close to Feng Qingyan, she became his subordinate. She had a high status in the Qingyan society, so many people who were inferior than her treated her with respect and called her vice president. The talents from the other factions didn't dare to do anything to her either. With Feng Qingyan around, they could only turn a blind eye to Ryuan Banlian. Ryuan Banlian had heard some people talking about her behind her back. Their words were unsightly, but she always felt that they were jealous of her. If they met her face to face, they would have to bow respectfully. They only dared to gossip behind her back. Most of the talented martial warriors in her batch were inferior to her. Only the real top talents could stand above her. From this point of view, she had taken a lot fewer detours. As long as she successfully advanced to the universe level in the future, she would be able to surpass most martial warriors. What was so bad about that? As for eternal level, she had never thought about it. Even the president of the Qingyan Society, Feng Qingyan, was stuck at the peak of the universe stage and hadn't advanced to the eternal level. It was still unknown if he could advance to the eternal level. Thus, as long as she could reach the universe level, she had surpassed most martial warriors. Everybody had to admit that there was nothing wrong with Ryuan Banlian's thinking. Her life plan was very clear. Chapter 3740 Desperate Situation. Ryuan Banlian's bedraggled situation. Tong En's determination. Fist of Light. Arrival in a flash. 4. But this was the battlefield. She was facing a dark apparition talent who had a chance of advancing to the high-tier Devil Emperor level. He was just a step away from becoming a peak mid-tier Devil Emperor. She was quite unlucky. After she was feeling proud for some time, Zarosa came to look for her. Ryuan Banlian's heart skipped a beat when she saw the horrifying halberd glow. However, she was a talent from the Stellar Academy, so she immediately regained her senses and gritted her teeth. A dazzling light shot out from her long whip and the power of domain surged out of her body. Boom! Multiple lotus flower phantoms appeared around the long whip. They shimmered and gave off a strong vitality. Powerful fluctuations swept out continuously. From this point of view, Ryuan Banlian wasn't weak. Normal heaven stage martial warriors might not be her match. Boom! The lotus flower shadows collided with Zarosa's halberd glow. Violent force fluctuations erupted and swept through the surroundings. Before Ryuan Banlian could heave a sigh of relief. But the next instant, the lotus flower shadows exploded under the halberd glow. Then, the halberd glow shot towards Ryuan Banlian without stopping. Ryuan Banlian's face turned pale. She didn't expect her opponent to be so powerful. She was at a disadvantage after a single exchange. Zhang Lu, she hurriedly retreated and shouted. Not far away from Ryuan Banlian, a young man was fighting with a dark apparition. He frowned when he heard the voice and saw the situation on Ryuan Banlian's side. He had no choice but to act. Boom! His weapon was a long spear. When he observed that the situation was critical, he threw the spear out. It turned into a golden ray of light and shot towards Zarosa's halberd glow. Clang! When the two forces collided, a metallic clang was heard. The blood-red halberd glow shattered under this attack. The golden spear froze on the spot. A figure appeared and grabbed it. It was Zhang Lu who attacked just now. Huh. Zerosa frowned slightly when she saw the person. This human heaven stage martial warrior was much more powerful than the female martial warrior. He was actually able to destroy her halberd glow. Zakerly, is this your opponent? However, she didn't act. She looked into the distance and said calmly. Zakerly's expression turned ugly. The other party was still able to save someone else when he was fighting with him. Didn't that mean that he was weak? Damn it, Zakerly snorted. He felt that he was comparable to the Blood Sun, but he couldn't even handle a heaven stage martial warrior from the light universe. The Blood Sun was fighting with two universe-level talents from the light universe, and he wasn't at a disadvantage. In comparison, he felt that the gap between them was getting wider and wider. Die! Zakerly vented his anger on Zhang Lu and attacked him furiously. Zhang Lu was stunned. Why did he feel that the vampire dark apparition was furious? What did he do? He had only saved someone. Ryuan Banlian was stunned too. Her face turned paler. She finally realized that all the martial warriors from the Qingyan society were held back by the other dark apparitions. No one seemed to be able to help him now. She didn't have the time to think too much and immediately withdrew silently. She wanted to distance herself from the vampire dark apparition. Trying to run away. However, Zerosa was watching her all the time and treated her as her prey. How could she let her leave? Boom! She dodged and her speed increased exponentially. She charged towards Ryuan Banlian and thrusted her trident out again. Damn it! Ryuan Banlian's face turned pale. She didn't think that after the Constellation Society faced such a dire situation, it would be her turn. Every dog has its day. Come to my house today. To think that she was so carefree a moment ago. Now she didn't have the heart to think about this anymore. She just wanted to run away. Now she finally understood how powerful dark apparitions were. If Elder Jai knew that there was such an incompetent talent in the Stellar Academy, he would be disappointed. Boom! The blood-red halberd glow cut through the air and appeared behind Ryuan Banlian. She couldn't escape, so she took out an earth-yellow shield and protected her back. The runes on the shield lit up instantly and turned into a huge shadow. There was a strange giant beast carved on it. It looked hideous and was covered with scales. It looked extremely tough. Bang! The blood-red halberd glow slammed into the shield. Ripples appeared on the surface of the shield, but it managed to block the attack. However, before Ryuan Banlian could feel happy, a powerful force came from the blood-red halberd glow. She and her shield flew out as if they were hit by a giant beast. Splat! A mouth of blood spurted out from Ryuan Banlian's mouth, making her red lips even redder. However, her face was pale and her beautiful hair was draped over her shoulders. She looked miserable. Also, she didn't dare to say anything. She took the shield and withdrew quickly. She looked like a female turtle who had shrunk her head into her tortoise shell. She knew that she could only survive if she escaped to the two universe-level martial warriors from the Qingyan society. If not, she might really die in the hands of that vampire dark apparition. No one spoke up for her in front of the dark apparitions. Her identity wouldn't be of any use. Chapter 3741 Desperate Situation. Ryuan Banlian's bedraggled situation. Tong En's determination. Fist of Light. Arrival in a flash. 5 Boom. At the same time, the black mist formed by the low-tier devil emperors and the lazy mist dark apparitions had surrounded the members of the Constellation Society entirely. The thick black mist converged towards the center, wanting to make all the talents from the Constellation Society their slaves. Tong En was extremely anxious. She wanted to break free from the mid-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition and save others. However, she couldn't do it in her current state. Boom, 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 she attacked frantically and slashed out sword glows. She wanted to force the lazy mist dark apparition back. Ha ha ha! The mid-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition burst out laughing. Black mist enveloped his body and blocked Tong En's attack. It's useless. No matter how much you struggle, you can't save them. From the looks of it, those talents aren't weak, right? Unfortunately, they will die here today. HMPH. Tong En's pretty face was tense and her expression was ugly. She didn't say anything and just snorted. Then she frantically activated her domain and threw it at her opponent. The power of your domain is not bad. Unfortunately, you used up much of it just now. It's not enough to threaten me anymore. The mid-tier devil Emperor Lazy Mist Dark Apparition sneered. You should take care of yourself. Before long, you might die in my hands. A domain appeared above its head too. Thick black mist filled up the domain. Faces appeared in the black mist. They looked hideous and terrifying, as if countless souls were etched in it. Screams were heard continuously from the mouths of these faces. They sounded like the howls of evil spirits as they echoed in the universe. Tong En didn't notice anything at first, but as she listened, she felt that something wasn't right. There was enchantment in this sound too. Her thoughts became lazy, and she lost all will to resist. She seemed to have lost interest in life. No, wait. She opened her eyes abruptly and bit the tip of her tongue. The strong smell of blood spread in her mouth instantly, causing her to be invigorated. She hurriedly released her spiritual power to resist the strange sound. You reacted so quickly. Interesting. A surprised voice came out of the Lazy Mist Dark Apparition's mouth. It sniggered and said, "It looks like you're quite talented in the light universe. If I kill you, it will be equivalent to 2 heaven realm talents. Let's see if you have the ability to kill me." Tong En was resolute. She knew that she couldn't drag any longer. If she dragged any longer, the members of the Constellation Society wouldn't be able to escape. I didn't want to use it at first, but I don't have a choice now. You can't blame me. After muttering to herself, she suddenly took out a jade bottle. There was a crimson pill lying inside. The pill was strange. There were blood-red patterns on its surface. It stood out amidst the redness. Tong En poured it out of the jade bottle. In an instant, a strong fragrance wafted out. From the fragrance, it should be a high-class Grandmaster-level pill. It was precious. However, there was a faint fishy smell in the pill. It smelled a little strange. Grandmaster-level pill. The Lazy Mist Dark Apparition's expression changed slightly. He recognized the grade of the pill. Tong En swallowed the pill without any hesitation. Her dainty eyebrows furrowed tightly and her face scrunched up. Then she stuck out her tongue and complained, "This is disgusting." The mid-tier devil Emperor Lazy Mist Dark Apparition was speechless. Boom! The next instant, a strange force erupted from Tong En's body. Flames spread out and engulfed her. She seemed to have turned into a female version of the god of flames. Faintly, one could see strange flame patterns crawling on her face. It gave her cute and pretty face a fierce and savage look. Also, with the appearance of the flame patterns, a fierce and savage aura exuded from her body. Tong En. Some distance away, Wei Na, Yuan Bai, Qin Quan, and the others observed this scene. Their expressions changed. They knew what the pill was, but they didn't expect Tong En to swallow it to save the Constellation Society. Was she really going to ignore the side effects of the pill? Tong En didn't care about what the others were thinking. She felt the majestic aura in her body and pointed at the Lazy Mist Dark Apparition in the distance. She exclaimed coldly, "Get over here." Impudent. The Lazy Mist Dark Apparition's expression transformed ugly. He snorted and said, "Do you really think you can fight with me with the help of the pill?" Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged towards Tong En. Black mist filled up the air, and the domain above his head pushed forward. There seemed to be flames burning in Tong En's eyes. Wrapped in flames, the battle sword in her hand quickly congregated into a terrifying flaming sword glow. The domain above her head shrunk abruptly and merged into the sword glow. Boom! Scorching heat spread out from the sword glow. The surrounding space distorted and dimensional rifts appeared. The Lazy Mist Dark Apparition squinted. He felt a strong sense of threat. Chapter 3742 Desperate Situation. Ryuan Banlian's bedraggled situation. Tong En's determination, fist of light. Arrival in a flash. 6. Boom. But before it could react, the sword glow had already slashed down, heading straight for its domain. Explosions resounded in the air. Frightening force impact swept out in all directions. The domain cracked instantly, and the black mist collapsed under the high heat of the flames. The lazy mist of the lazy mist race was troublesome, but it would still be dispersed in front of an overwhelming attack. Also, flames had a restraining effect on the dark force. As long as the flame was strong enough, it could burn everything. Damn it! The lazy mist dark apparition didn't expect his opponent's ability to rise so much. It roared and the black mist congregated again. It turned into a terrifying giant python and charged towards the flaming sword glow. Roar! The giant python hissed. It opened its mouth and bit the flaming sword glow, wanting to destroy it. Unfortunately, Tong En was much more powerful than before. The power of her domain surged out from the sword glow. The giant python only had the time to scream before it got cut by the sword glow. Its huge body was torn apart. How is this possible? The lazy mist dark apparition was flabbergasted. He hurriedly retreated, but it was too late. Boom! The sword glow landed and the terrifying flames engulfed it. Roar! The lazy mist dark apparition roared in pain. Its body expanded and a thick black light erupted from it. It was like a pitch-black sun. A terrifying dark force swept out, filled with indescribable evilness. Another devil transformation. Tong En didn't look good. The attack just now had used up most of the pill medicine's power. She couldn't maintain it for long. This dark apparition would only become more troublesome after the devil transformation. She might not be able to kill it. She glanced at the devilized dark apparition. Many thoughts went through her mind. She turned her head abruptly and dashed towards the area where the Constellation Society was. She wanted to take this chance to save them. Boom! A sword glow swept out, preparing to kill the low-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparitions. Roar! Terrifying howls came from behind. Tong En's expression changed. She turned and saw black tentacles sweeping towards her. Most of them were aimed at her while the rest were aimed at the sword glow. Bang! In an instant, the sword glow shattered. At the same time, the tentacles caught up with Tong En and lashed towards her body. Tong En had no choice but to turn and retaliate. Sword glows shot out continuously to block the black tentacles, but something unexpected happened. The heads of these black tentacles looked like giant pythons. Not only did they have crimson eyeballs, but their sides were also filled with numb faces. More and more tentacles swept out, forming a huge net. The faces were all aimed at her eyes. The eyeballs on them gave off a frightening glow as if they wanted to invade her spirit. "We're dead." Tong En's expression froze. The moment she felt lazy, a sense of despair appeared in her heart. "Die!" A cold voice came out of the lazy mist dark apparition's mouth after devil transformation. It was still shrouded in black mist, but one could faintly see its huge and bloated body. It charged towards Tong En and opened its mouth, wanting to swallow Tong En. Tong En. Wei Na, Yuan Bai, and the others were appalled when they saw this scene. Everything happened too quickly. From the dark apparition's devil transformation to its attack entangling Tong En, everything happened within a few breaths. They didn't have any time to react. By the time they realized Tong En's situation, it was too late. They could only let out a sorrowful roar. "Ha ha ha! That young lady is looking for death." A devil-armored dark apparition laughed. "Get lost." Yuan Bai, Qin Quan, and the others roared in anger. They wanted to push away the devil-armored dark apparition's attacks and save Tong En. "Don't worry. None of you will be able to escape. It's just a matter of time," another devil-armored dark apparition said coldly. Roar. After devil transformation, the lazy mist dark apparition had arrived in front of Tong En. It closed its mouth and everything seemed to be too late. Wei Na, Yuan Bai, and the others closed their eyes in pain. To them, witnessing the death of their comrade was too cruel. But, how dare you? At this moment, a cold shout was listened in the air. It arrived from afar. Before anyone could react, they observed a dazzling white light cutting through the air. It shot towards the lazy mist dark apparition at a frightening speed. It arrived in an instant like a shooting star. Fist of light! The lazy mist dark apparition's voice echoed in the air. It froze on the spot as if it was frozen. Boom! The next instant, its bloated body exploded under everyone's astounded gaze. Dazzling white light with a holy aura rose from the ground like a blazing sun. Chapter 30, 743 Wang Teng appears. Light attribute, sword mountain inverted, anger. One boom, the white sun rose in the universe like a newborn star. It was born in this planetary sector. In the eyes of all the martial warriors, the huge and bloated lazy mist dark apparition had exploded on the spot. Flesh and black blood spurted out. However, before it could leave the area covered by the white light, it melted and disappeared without a trace. The mid-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition disappeared in front of everyone. Silence. There was dead silence. All the martial warriors were attracted by this scene. Even universe-level martial warriors and high-tier devil emperors, no matter how far away they were, couldn't help but halt their battle and look at this area. What's that? He looks like a martial warrior. Light element martial warrior. Very soon, many martial warriors regained their senses and swallowed their saliva uncontrollably. There was a huge commotion. Light element martial warrior. Some distance away, Arvs's gaze turned strange as he looked at the area covered by the holy light. He didn't anticipate another powerful light element martial warrior to emerge here. He had no choice but to pay attention to this guy's ability. The sorrow on Wei Na, Yuan Bai, Qin Quan, and Bai Yao's faces hadn't disappeared. When they saw this scene, they were stunned. They seemed a little stunned. They didn't seem to have reacted in time and didn't know what happened. However, they couldn't help but feel hopeful. Maybe Tong En hadn't died. They stared intently at the area, anticipating a miracle. The light came too quickly. Many people didn't see it clearly, including them. Hence, they weren't sure whether Tong En was saved at the last moment. Ryuan Banlian had a chance to catch her breath because of this sudden change. She turned to look at the source of the holy light and frowned slightly. She thought that Tong En would definitely die in the hands of the lazy mist dark apparition, but from the looks of it now, something unexpected had happened. The person who acted should be a light element martial warrior. An idea appeared in her mind. She looked at the area and her eyes shimmered. Who the hell was it? Why did he act at this time? He appeared at the right time. The blood god clone Adehoj and Yulujin's battle had stopped too. They looked in that direction unconsciously. Adehoj and Yulujin didn't know who came. Only the blood god clone had a strange smile on his face. No one knew what he was thinking. After a few breaths, the dazzling light in the area dissipated gradually. A tall and slender figure gradually appeared. Wang Teng. Everyone's gaze landed on the figure. Many people were stunned for a moment. Before they could react, they felt that the face looked a little familiar. However, some people recognized him immediately and exclaimed in surprise. There was a strange glint in their eyes. Wang Teng. Which Wang Teng? Who else can it be? The 7th-class saint, the talent from the 7th Stellar Academy Wang Teng. Oh my God, it's really Wang Teng. Wait, how can he be so strong? He killed a mid-tier devil emperor who had done devil transformation with a single punch. Is that true? Oh my God. That's right. Isn't Wang Teng a freshman from the 7th Stellar Academy? He's at most at the Cosmos realm. Why is he so strong? I heard that he defeated a Heaven Stage martial warrior in the past. However, he just defeated a mid-tier devil emperor with a single punch. Isn't the difference a little huge? This is outrageous. There was an uproar. Many talents from the Stellar Academy recognized Wang Teng quickly. After all, Wang Teng was a student of the 7th Stellar Academy, so they were familiar with him. At the same time, the other factions regained their senses when they heard Wang Teng's name. They were astounded. Wang Teng, the missing talent, the seven-class saint from the Secondary Profession Alliance. He appeared in front of everyone in such a shocking manner. It felt like a dream. It's him. Adeho's eyes lit up. He immediately recognized the other party. The owner of the God Stage contract of the Virtual Universe Corporation. At that time, they had met at the Virtual Universe Corporation's headquarters. At that time, the other party was just a Cosmos Stage martial warrior, so he didn't take him seriously. However, he was still unconvinced that this fellow was able to get a God Stage contract. What did Wang Teng do to deserve this? What kind of talent did he have? He was able to surpass Adeho, a talent from the Golden Dragon race, and receive a God Stage contract. Mind you, he only received an Eternal level contract. The difference between a God Stage contract and an Eternal level contract was huge. All the talents knew it clearly. Thus, Adeho was unconvinced and wanted to find a chance to have a duel with Wang Teng. However, Wang Teng was only at the Cosmos realm at that time, so he didn't have the chance. He was only shocked when he heard that Wang Teng rose in status during the exchange event at the Secondary Career Alliance's headquarters and became the 7-class saint. A 7-class saint. This title was a little heavy. Even with his talent, he had to admit that his opponent had an advantage over ordinary people in terms of secondary professions. Chapter 3744 Wang Teng appears. Light attribute. Sword Mountain inverted. Anger. 2. It wouldn't be too much even if Wang Teng was given a God Stage contract. However, Adeho didn't think that the other party's martial warrior expertise could surpass his. He had absolute confidence in his martial arts. After Wang Teng disappeared, he didn't take it to heart anymore. Among all the talents in the Virtual Universe Corporation, many of them died outside every year and there was no news of them. Thus, to him, Wang Teng's disappearance meant that he was dead. Why should he care about a dead person? However, now the other party appeared again and appeared in front of him in this manner. This caused a huge commotion in his heart. This young man seemed to have gotten stronger. Adeho squinted as he looked at the figure. He couldn't see through him. Also, that attack just now was a light element battle technique. It was extremely powerful. It was able to kill a dark apparition who was at the peak of Devil Emperor after Devil transformation. Even he had to treat him with caution. He's Wang Teng. Yulujin looked at the figure in surprise. He said in surprise, I've heard of his name a long time ago and finally met him today. As expected of someone of his fame. No, he's even more monstrous than the rumors. Didn't they say that he's just a Cosmos Stage martial warrior? How can he kill a mid-tier Devil Emperor with a single punch? This is outrageous. His voice pulled Adeho back from his thoughts. He turned and glanced at Wang Teng. Wang Teng, Wei Na Yuanbai, Qin Quan, and the others expanded their eyes in shock. They were surprised and elated. How could they not be astounded when the most impossible person appeared in front of them? However, when they saw the petite figure in her arms, they were elated. Tong En didn't die. She wasn't dead. That's great. Wei Na heaved a sigh of relief. She felt lucky and elated. She didn't know how they would feel if Tong En died. Tong En was their closest companion. They had experienced many life and death situations together. No matter who died, they wouldn't be able to accept it. Look, she wasn't dead. Their team was still intact. No one was missing. Wei Na wasn't the only one. The others felt a huge weight lifting off their shoulders. He's Wang Teng. Arves was surprised. He had heard of Wang Teng's name, but he didn't expect to see him in this situation. Also, the other party's light talent seemed powerful. All the factions were familiar with Wang Teng. Even if they hadn't seen him in person, they had heard of his name. Some were surprised, some were astounded, and some were amazed. Their expressions were complicated. It was rumored that this talented martial warrior had disappeared. No one knew if he was dead or alive. The appearance of this person broke the rumors. He was still alive, and he seemed to have gotten stronger. The return of this talent was a blessing for the light universe. Of course, not everyone wanted to see him alive. For instance, the members of the Kingian society gazed as though they saw a ghost when they saw the figure. They were flabbergasted. "Why is it him?" Ryuan Banlian widened her eyes in disbelief. Her pupils constricted violently. Wasn't he dead? Why was he here? He shouldn't have appeared. He should have died just like the rumors and disappeared without a trace. No one would remember him, but he was still alive. Ryuan Banlian couldn't accept it. Her face turned black. Someone who shouldn't have appeared in front of her, made her feel uncomfortable and disgusted. But there was nothing she could do. She could only watch him standing there and even save Tong En, who was supposed to be dead. Wang Teng exhaled a sigh of relief under everyone's gaze. This was just his light clone. He wanted to pick up some attribute bubbles, but he didn't expect to be in such a dangerous situation. If he had been one step slower, Tong En would have died in the hands of the lazy mist dark apparition. He lowered his head and met a pair of astounded eyes. "You, Wang Teng." Tong En was stunned. She thought that she saw wrong. Why was she in Wang Teng's arms? What happened just now? Oh right, she almost got eaten by the lazy mist dark apparition. In an instant she remembered what happened just now. She was affected by the lazy mist dark apparition's lazy mist, so she was in a daze and temporarily forgot what happened. Most importantly, everything happened too quickly. From the time the lazy mist dark apparition tied her up and forced her to laze around, to the time when Wang Teng appeared, everything happened in a blink of an eye. She was still immersed in the despair she felt at that time. Hence, everything felt unreal to her. She couldn't help but wonder if Wang Teng was just an illusion. "It's me," Wang Teng smiled and replied softly. Tong En was stunned for a moment before she regained her senses. This was real. Wang Teng was real too. She couldn't help but reach out and pinch Wang Teng's face. "Let me pinch to see if you're real." Chapter 37:45 Wang Teng appears. Light attribute, sword mountain inverted. Anger, 3 Wang Teng. Everyone was caught between laughter and tears when they saw this scene. Tong En's reaction was amazing. She actually thought that Wang Teng was a fake. However, many people felt the same way. They also suspected that Wang Teng was a fake. Otherwise, why would a missing person suddenly appear here? This felt like a dream. All right. If there's nothing, you can come down." Wang Teng rolled his eyes. This senior sister always took advantage of him. Last time, when he was at the ruins of the Naga race on the poison erosion world Scorpion planet, she wanted to pinch his face. However, he didn't give in at that time. This time he didn't notice her and allowed her to pinch his face. Indeed, handsome men should protect themselves outside. "I'm very weak now." Tong En's face was pale. She gave a pitiful expression. "Huh?" Wang Teng's nose twitched slightly. He frowned and said, "This is the smell of pills. Did you eat a pill that boosted your potential? Savage blood flame spiritual pill. How is it? Can I be saved?" A smile appeared at the edge of Tong En's lips. She asked weakly, "Great saint, since you know that I'm a saint alchemist, don't ask such useless questions. I'm too lazy to answer them," Wang Teng responded calmly. The martial warriors around them were speechless when they heard the two of them talking as if there was no one around them. They were caught between laughter and tears when they saw Wang Teng boasting. "Really?" Tong En's eyes lit up. "Don't worry, I'll make a pill for you. You'll be fine," Wang Teng consoled her. "In that case, you have to hurry." "This feeling is too uncomfortable," Tong En said. "I don't need much time to make pills." Wang Teng nodded. Tong En's furrowed brows finally relaxed. Wang Teng's words seemed to have relieved her of her worries. She believed in Wang Teng's alchemy mastery, so she didn't think that he was boasting. Instead, she felt that she would be able to recover quickly. "Are you Wang Teng?" At this moment, a hoarse and strange voice suddenly came from afar. It was Xia Ojai from the Devil Mind race. "So what if I am?" Wang Teng turned and asked calmly, "Ha ha ha, you have guts." Xiaojai sized up Wang Teng with his cold eyes. "You're just a heaven realm martial warrior, but you're able to kill a mid-tier devil emperor with a single punch. That was a lazy mist dark apparition at the peak of the mid-tier devil emperor level. You do have some ability. No wonder that lord gave you a warrant for arrest." So this is the human martial warrior that Sir was talking about. On the other side, the talent from the devil armor race Jia Zidi exclaimed in surprise. "Wang Teng, this name sounds a little familiar," the top talent of the phantasma race, Huan Shenao, couldn't help but say. A pair of green eyes were sizing up Wang Teng under the mist. It was like a poisonous snake that had discovered its prey. It was thinking of a way to kill him. They weren't the only ones. Even the top talents from the various dark apparition races, including the lazy mist race, the devil rock race, and the spiritual bone race, looked over in unplanned unison and stared intently at Wang Teng. In an instant, Wang Teng became the target of all enemies. All the martial warriors in the light universe were stunned. Adehoj, Yulujin, Arves, and the other talents looked at Wang Teng in confusion. What was going on? The moment Wang Teng appeared, he was targeted by so many talented dark apparitions. What infuriating thing did he do? At this moment, they really wanted to ask if his head was numb. If it was them, they would be stupefied. Even universe-level martial warriors wouldn't be able to handle the attention of so many dark apparitions. This was horrifying. Tong En felt it the most because she was in Wang Teng's arms. She could clearly feel the gazes of the dark apparitions. Although she was always the center of attention and would attract gazes wherever she went, this was the first time she met such a situation. She felt that even her sister wouldn't be able to withstand those gazes. "Why don't you put me down? I think I can still walk," Tong En muttered softly. Wang Teng, were they not good friends anymore? This was a cheap and fake friendship. He lowered his head and glanced at Tong En. His gaze was so direct that Tong En felt a little embarrassed. She coughed awkwardly and said, "Forget it, I don't care if I die." After she concluded speaking, she closed her eyes and pretended to be deaf. She disregarded everything that was happening outside. Wang Teng was speechless. He raised his head and scanned his surroundings. Then he smiled calmly and said, "Are you trying to kill me?" "No, no, no, we just want to bring you back alive." Xiaojai gazed at Wang Teng with a scorching gaze and sniggered. "Good idea." Wang Teng remained calm. He nodded and said, "Unfortunately, you can't do it. HMPH, you're not weak, but you're just at the heaven realm. There are so many high-tier devil emperors here. Can't we take you down?" Xiaojai smiled in disdain. "You can try," Wang Teng replied calmly. Adehoj, Arves, and the other talents were flabbergasted. This fellow was audacious. He wasn't afraid at all in this situation and was able to face the high-tier devil emperor dark apparitions calmly. Other heaven realm talents. No, even universe-level talents wouldn't be able to remain calm. Chapter 30, 746 Wang Teng appears. Light attribute, Sword Mountain inverted. Anger. 4. You're quite arrogant. A cold glint shot out of Xiaojai's eyes. The dark constellation force in his body exploded and shot towards Wang Teng. HMPH. At this moment, a snort came from the side. Arves held his long spear and released his light constellation force. He charged over. "Do you think I don't exist?" Boom! Following his shout, spear glows condensed from light constellation force shot out and headed straight for Xiaojai. Xiaojai's gaze turned sharp, and a hint of impatience appeared on his face. He had no choice but to give up attacking Wang Teng. The battle sword in his hand gave off a dark red glow as he welcomed Arv's spear glow. Boom! The attacks from both parties collided and caused a violent explosion. The frightening impact swept through the surroundings. The dark constellation force and the light constellation force collided and melted. This wasn't the first time they had exchanged blows, but neither party could win. Gradually, the human and the devil started to get angry. They didn't hold back anymore and executed their powerful attacks. The outlines of small worlds appeared and hurled towards each other. Boom, boom, boom. The two entirely different small worlds collided violently in midair. The power in them poured out without any restraint, attempting to obliterate each other's world power. A universe-level light element martial warrior. Wang Teng's eyes lit up when he saw their intense battle. Light element martial warrior, and he was a universe stage talent. He had never met such a talent in the past. Now, he finally met one. He scanned his surroundings and immediately noticed a large number of attribute bubbles floating around the light element universe-level talent. He released his spiritual kinesis without any hesitation and picked them up. Light Constellation Force 3,300, Light Constellation Force 4,000, Light Constellation Force 5,500. Light Domain Integration Phase 500, Light Domain Integration Phase 300, Light Domain Integration Phase 650, Origin of Light 1200, Origin of Light 800, Origin of Light 1000, Aurora Holy Shadow Arrow 2500, Aurora Divine Shadow Spear Skill 4500 on the Flaming Meteorite. Wang Teng opened his eyes abruptly. There was a sharp glint in his eyes. It's here. A few special attribute bubbles merged into his body and turned into various energies and enlightenment. All the attribute bubbles he picked up were light element. There was a lot of good stuff too. Wang Teng was surprised. First, there was the light constellation force. After the attribute bubbles merged into Wang Teng's body, they turned into pure light constellation force and flowed through his limbs. Then, they merged into his chaos planetary sector. Boom! A silent explosion occurred in Wang Teng's body. His light constellation force had a breakthrough. Light constellation force 5600, 20000, second level heaven realm. In an instant, Wang Teng's light constellation force advanced from the first level of the heaven realm to the second level. His ability rose again. Then there was a special enlightenment. Light domain. What's more, it was at the integration phase. When Wang Teng was in the dark universe, he picked up many light domain attribute bubbles on the light planet controlled by the Void Conscious, and raised his light domain attribute to the 9th level of the actualization phase. When destroying the devilized lazy mist dark apparition with a single punch, he instilled the power of this 9th rank actualization phase domain and some power of laws of origin into it. He was able to release the power of the Fist of Light to a terrifying level. Outsiders only saw the result, but only Wang Teng knew that without the power of domain and the power of laws of origin, the Fist of Light alone wouldn't be able to reach that stage. Thus, the power of domain was extremely important. However, all this while, his light domain had been improving slowly. After all, there were too few light element martial warriors. Powerful light element martial warriors were even rarer. Fortunately, there were light attribute bubbles on the light planet controlled by the Void Conscious. If not, he didn't know how long his light domain would take to reach this stage. However, he didn't expect to meet a universe stage light element martial warrior not long after he came back to the light universe. What's more, this guy was a genius. The attribute bubbles he dropped contained the merging realm light domain attribute. This was great news for Wang Teng. This meant that his light domain could catch up with the other domains. Once it reached the integration phase, he would be able to kill a mid-tier devil emperor dark apparition with his light battle technique using his domain alone. He wouldn't even need to use his power of origin. At this moment, all kinds of enlightenment regarding the light domain appeared in Wang Teng's mind. They merged into his memory and became part of him. At the same time, a special image appeared. It was a planet. This was a planet filled with the power of light. There were many light element creatures living on it. They had pure white wings behind their backs and a unique aura. They were holy and noble. Every living creature was extremely eye-catching. They seemed to be born in the light and had the power of light in their bodies. This creature was special. All life seemed dim in front of them. Nothing could be compared to them. And on this planet, there was a huge mountain filled with light conscious. Chapter 30, 747 Wang Teng appears. Light attribute, sword mountain inverted, anger. 5. This mountain was special. It was like a huge sword of light stabbed into the ground. Thick domain power spread around the mountain. A figure emerged on the peak of the mountain. It was the same person as the universe-level martial warrior the light clone saw. He sat cross-legged on the peak of the mountain and sensed the power of the domain. Time passed slowly. After some time, a faint power of domain seeped out of his body and circled around him. Wang Teng felt that he had experienced the enlightenment process personally. It was etched deeply in his heart. The feather race, the power of domain flowed in Wang Teng's body. He had reached the integration phase. At the same time, a strange look appeared in his eyes as he said these words. It was obvious that the creature he saw in the image was from the feather race. They were from the same race as Tai Beisha. This planet should be the ancestral ground of the feather race. As for the mountain that the universe-level light element martial warrior comprehended, it should be a place specialized in understanding the power of domains. However, the mountain seemed a little special. It was stabbed into the ground like a sword. No, Wang Teng nodded his head. He recalled the mountain in the image and was astounded. That's a real light element battle sword. I wonder what grade it is. It can retain the power of domain for a long time. It might be an ancient weapon. He touched his chin and wondered to himself. Light domain, 602,000 integration phase second level. It reached the integration phase second level directly. Wang Teng's eyes shimmered. He was surprised when he saw the attributes board. He didn't expect the attribute bubbles he picked up to raise his light domain by 2 levels. His actualization phase domain was perfected. There were no flaws and his foundation was strong. The universe-level martial warrior had a strong grasp of the light domain. What a hardworking good person. Wang Teng gave him a thumbs up in his heart. Every drop of sweat and effort the guy had put in was worth his gratitude. Then an even more profound enlightenment appeared in Wang Teng's mind. This time, an image appeared, and it was the same as the previous one. The figure standing on the peak of the mountain was enlightened. This time, it wasn't the power of domain. It was the more profound power of laws of origin. Strange runes appeared on the mountain and transformed into chains. They looked like divine patterns carved on the mountain. It was divine. After some time, Wang Teng let out a long sigh. Strange light runes flashed past his eyes, and a faint power of laws of origin of light emanated from his body. He seemed to have merged with the power of light in this world. If someone was on the flaming meteorite, they would be able to feel this strange scene. A heaven stage martial warrior had such an extraordinary power of laws of origin on him. This was enough to astonish people. That mountain is an ancient weapon. Wang Teng didn't look at the attributes board in a hurry. Instead, he recalled the strange scene and muttered to himself. He suddenly got interested in the mountain. If he could go there and gain some enlightenment, he might get unexpected benefits. He wouldn't need to raise his light domain and the power of laws of origin so slowly. However, that mountain should be on the ancestral planet of the feather race. Outsiders wouldn't be able to find it or enter it. I can ask Tai Beisha when I have the time. Wang Teng's eyes shimmered. Speaking about it, that universe-level talent seems to be from the feather race too. Origin of light, 10,503,000, third rank. He glanced at the attributes board and nodded slightly. The origin of light had increased tremendously. It was still at the third rank, but his grasp of it had increased tremendously. The power of origin of light rose tremendously on the light planet and reached the third rank directly. It saved him much cultivation time. Even the universe-level martial warrior might not be able to surpass the power of laws of origin. In this aspect, the difference between Wang Teng and the other party shouldn't be huge. The next two attribute bubbles surprised Wang Teng. They were two battle techniques. As the attribute bubbles merged into his body, two images appeared in Wang Teng's mind. They were the martial warriors from the feather race. These two figures were each practicing their battle techniques. A figure held a battle bow in his hand. When he drew the bow, light arrows congregated and shot out. In an instant, the light arrow turned into an aurora and arrived in front of a dark apparition at the speed of lightning. It penetrated the dark apparition. The entire process seemed to have happened within a few breaths. It was too fast. Also, the power of the light arrows was astonishing. They had a strong restraining effect on dark apparitions and could wear down the dark force. In the image, after the dark apparition got penetrated, its dark force was almost exhausted and it was on the verge of death. This was the real meaning of death. Even devil transformation couldn't be performed. The dark apparition's spiritual power was obliterated too. The other figure was holding a long spear and executing some kind of spear skill. The power was frightening. Every stab was accompanied by a frightening shadow. Light force congregated and cut through the air, blasting a dark apparition into pieces. Chapter 37:48 Wang Teng appears. Light attribute, sword mountain inverted, anger. 6. This spear skill was more domineering than the arrow skill. Also, when he executed it, there would be spear shadows. It was mysterious and hard to grasp. Aurora Divine Shadow Arrow Skill. Aurora Divine Shadow Spear Skill. These are two domineering battle techniques. Wang Teng was astounded. At this moment, he was surprised and elated. With these two light element battle techniques, he would have more light element skills. In the past, he didn't have many light element skills. He didn't have any skills he could execute using his weapon, so he fought with his bare hands. Of course, compared to most light element martial warriors, he had many skills. Whether it was the Fist of Light, Dazzling Sky, Dawn Light Bolt, or other battle techniques, they were all extremely powerful and rare. Normal people wouldn't be able to grasp them. They were all universe level and above battle techniques. Among them, there were many eternal level battle techniques. If anyone said that this collection was too little, how could other people survive? Even the universe level talent from the feather race couldn't be compared to him. However, Wang Teng wasn't satisfied. The more battle techniques he had, the better. He could pick up attribute bubbles anyway. Sometimes, if he had plenty of battle techniques, he could use them however he wanted. Aurora Divine Shadow Arrow Skill Universe Stage Peak, 2500 3000 Foundation. Aurora Divine Shadow Spear Skill Universe Stage Peak, 1500 5000 Well Versed. They're both all universe stage battle techniques. It's not bad. Wang Teng nodded. Also, they should belong to the same legacy. I can use them to understand each other and promote each other. However, he didn't understand why the Aurora Divine Shadow Arrow only reached the Foundation stage, while the Aurora Holy Shadow Spear skill had reached the well-versed stage. Forget it. Wang Teng shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Wang Teng had completed absorbing all the attribute bubbles from the universe-level light talent. Of course, this was only temporary. The battle was still ongoing, so more attribute bubbles would be dropped later. Wang Teng was filled with anticipation. He slowly closed his eyes and used his clone's vision to look at the situation on the battlefield. The Devil Mind Dark Apparition was engaged in a fierce battle with Arves. It hadn't given up the thought of capturing Wang Teng. It would look over occasionally with greed and passion in its eyes. This gaze made Wang Teng unhappy. Hey, you're from the Devil Mind race. Do you think you can catch me with this little ability of yours? Trash. Wang Teng started mocking on the spot. He had disliked it for a long time. If it wasn't for the fact that the Blood God clone couldn't do anything to it, he would have taught it a lesson. However, Wang Teng didn't have any qualms. He just wanted to have some fun. Xiao Jai didn't expect Wang Teng to scold him. He was stunned for a moment before anger surged into his heart, especially when he saw Wang Teng's contemptuous gaze. He wished he could tear that face into pieces. "You're looking for death." The moment he completed speaking, he attacked Arves furiously. Arves felt a sense of malice again. Why did he have to take the blame for other people? What did he do wrong? Useless. You can't even touch the edge of my clothes and you still want to catch me? Dream on. Wang Teng continued mocking him. Roar! Xiao Jai was infuriated. He yelled at the dark apparitions around him. Why are y'all standing there? Catch him. The dark apparitions around him were speechless too. However, after hearing Xiao Jai's words, they regained their senses and rushed towards Wang Teng. Boom, boom, boom. But immediately the other talents from the light universe went forward and stopped them. No matter what, they wouldn't allow these dark apparitions to capture Wang Teng, who was extremely useful. A 7-class saint was more important than his martial arts cultivation. Ha ha ha. The blood god clone laughed. Xiao Jai, you're just a piece of trash. You can't even handle a heaven stage martial warrior from the human race. No wonder they call you trash. I think this suits you. Double the mockery. Zhu. Xiao Jai immediately turned to look at the blood god clone. His anger grew as if a pot of hot oil was poured on him. Don't get excited, I'm just speaking the truth. I'm helping you to recognize yourself, the blood god clone said calmly. Roar! Xiao Jai attacked Arves frantically. Arves was speechless. He felt that he had suffered too much. The next instant, his face turned cold and he was furious. This guy really treated him like mud. The shadow of the world of light above him crashed down and the frightening power of the world erupted. Divine patterns of light appeared, making the shadow of the world even more dazzling. It gave off a dazzling light power that lit up the space. Boom! The space trembled and the shadow of Xiao Jai's world was thrown back. The extremely thick light force almost engulfed the shadow of his world and corroded it. How is this possible? Xiao Jai was thrown back by the light force. His expression was distorted as he stared at Wang Teng in disbelief. Chapter 3749 Arves Eruption. Wang Teng's strength. Crushed. Everyone, it's been hard on you. One boom. The overwhelming holy power of light swept out from Arves's universe world projection and obliterated Xiao Jai's. Even the dark force in its body was purified by the majestic light force. It kept giving off a hissing sound. Ah! The disbelief on Xiao Jai's face turned into pain. He screamed in agony. When he was thrown back, he was covered by the power of light. Green smoke rose from the sheephead devil's body and his flesh melted. To the dark apparitions, the power of light was like a strong poison. They would die if they touched it. Although Xiao Jai was extremely powerful and wouldn't be easily contaminated by the light force, Arves's light force was too powerful. It was enough to kill a high-tier devil emperor. The dark apparitions around them were flabbergasted. They didn't dare to get close to the thick light force. This was horrifying. This human martial warrior didn't use his full strength in the past. He only released his full potential now. Actually, both parties didn't use their full strength. They were afraid of each other, so they held back. So powerful, Wang Teng was astounded too. At first, he just wanted to anger Xiao Jai and make him lose his composure. That way, the light element universe stage martial warrior would have a chance to defeat him. The effects were not bad. If Xiao Jai wasn't blinded by anger, the universe-level light element martial warrior wouldn't have succeeded so easily. However, he didn't expect the guy to release such a terrifying power. He seemed a little angry too. He couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Was the power of his mouth so extraordinary, he angered two people at once. But he was only targeting the devil mind dark apparition. It had nothing to do with this universe stage light talent. Right. Wang Teng felt that he was innocent. Oh right, save the members of the Constellation Society. They're trapped. Tong En suddenly raised her hand and pointed at the area shrouded in black mist. Wang Teng shifted his gaze over and frowned slightly. The low-tier Devil Emperor lazy mist dark apparitions around the area felt their hearts tightening when they observed him looking at them. They had witnessed the strength of this light element martial warrior personally. After devil transformation, a mid-tier Devil Emperors had been killed by a single punch. Low-tier Devil Emperors like them couldn't withstand a single finger from him. HMPH. A peak mid-tier Devil Emperor lazy mist dark apparition snorted. His gaze turned vicious as he charged towards Wang Teng. It was one of the most powerful mid-tier Devil Emperors in the lazy mist race. It was only one step away from becoming a high-tier Devil Emperor. It was similar to Zarosa. Hence, when it observed that no one dared to attack Wang Teng, it wasn't afraid. Instead, it became competitive. The high-tier Devil Emperors wanted to catch this human martial warrior, but they couldn't do it now. This was their chance. Boom! It didn't waste any time and charged towards Wang Teng. The black mist around it churned and turned into a huge claw mark as it clawed at Wang Teng. The claw marks were pitch black. Numb faces protruded from the marks as if the souls sealed inside were trying to break free. Their mouths seemed to be groaning silently. "Ha ha, you attacked before I did," Wang Teng sniggered. His expression didn't change when he saw the giant black claw charging towards him. He wasn't in a hurry to attack either. "Be careful, don't glimpse at that face." Tong En's expression changed slightly as she reminded Wang Teng. "It's all right," Wang Teng replied calmly. He showed no signs of averting the gaze. Instead, he stared at the faces calmly with a hint of mockery in his eyes. "You're looking for death," the mid-tier Devil Emperor lazy mist dark apparition sneered. His gaze turned cold. No one could resist the lazy mist's power. This human martial warrior remained too naive. Did he think that a light element martial warrior could resist it? Tong En was anxious. She also felt that Wang Teng was a little arrogant. She wanted to say something, but it was too late. Boom! The giant black claw landed on Wang Teng. The numb faces opened their mouths. They looked numb and yet hideous, which was an eerie scene. Fangs grew out of their mouths as if they wanted to tear Wang Teng into pieces. A normal martial warrior would turn pale in fright if they saw this scene. This was the situation for Tong En, who was in Wang Teng's arms. She didn't dare to look at the faces, but the giant palm was extremely close to her. She could feel the laziness invading her body again, making her lose all thoughts of resisting. But the next instant, this feeling disappeared abruptly. It only lasted for a split second. The change was so sudden that she was stunned. What was going on? Tong En couldn't help but raise her head to look at Wang Teng. There was still a calm expression on his handsome face. The corners of his lips lifted slightly as if he was mocking Wang Teng. Was he mocking his enemy? Was it all because of Wang Teng? Did he have a way to resist the power of the lazy mist? Before she could think further, Wang Teng attacked. He didn't move. Instead, he raised his hand and punched the giant claw mark. Fist of Light. It was still the Fist of Light. Chapter 37-39, Desperate Situation. Ruan Banlian's bedraggled situation. Tong En's determination. Fist of Light. Arrival in a flash. 3. You can't pass. The lazy mist dark apparition at the peak of mid-tier Devil Emperor walked towards Tong En step by step. He was covered with black mist and stretched out like tentacles, ready to reach out at any moment. Tong En's gaze flickered slightly. Her heart was filled with seriousness. She had exhausted too much force to rush over just now. She wasn't confident that she could deal with this mid-tier Devil Emperor. There were too many dark apparition talents. If it was a one-on-one fight, they wouldn't be suppressed so badly. However, it was too late now. The talents from the light universe were surrounded. They wouldn't be able to escape without reinforcements. Some distance away, among the martial warriors from the Qingyan society, Ruan Banlian's gaze flickered. A mocking smile appeared at the edge of her lips. How could a heaven-stage martial warrior save the people from the Constellation Society? She knew Tong En and had some grudges with her. In the past, Tong En stood on the Constellation Society's side and even offended the Qingyan Society. Tong En looked down on her. Yuan Banlian bore a grudge because of this. Women were never broad-minded, especially women like her. However, she couldn't afford to offend the other party's sister, Tongya. She could only bear with it. She was elated to finally see Tong En suffering a setback. Without Tongya beside her, Tong En was just an ordinary Heaven Realm talent. He was nothing. Did he really think that he was so amazing? She was worse than the vice president of the Qingyan Society. Either way, she relied on her own ability, even if it was beauty. What did Tong En have? She just had a good sister. How could any man like her with her shriveled body? Yuan Banlian was confident that she could suppress her opponent. Cute. It was nothing in front of sexy. HMPH, Yuan Banlian snorted. She was delighted. A smile appeared on her face uncontrollably as she looked at the people from the Constellation faction in despair and Tong En who couldn't save them. Boom! At this moment a loud explosion occurred. Yuan Banlian's expression changed. Where are you looking at? A cold and beautiful lady with long blood-red hair and wearing a hideous blood-red battle armor appeared not far away from Yuan Banlian. She held a huge trident and charged towards her. This lady was Zarosa. The vampire dark apparitions had joined the battle too. The opponent Zarosa found was Yuan Banlian from the Qingyan Society. Yuan Banlian's expression turned grim when she saw the vampire lady charging towards her aggressively. She twisted the long whip in her hand violently. Slap! A crisp sound resounded in the air. Emerald green light erupted from the long whip and turned into numerous vine shadows. They swept towards Zarosa. Small tricks, Zarosa sneered. She formed a claw with her other hand and dashed forward, forming a huge blood-red claw. Boom! The giant blood-red claw grabbed the vines and exerted force. Slap! Within a split second, the vines were torn apart. Zarosa stabbed her trident out and a terrifying halberd glow was formed. Yuan Banlian's expression changed slightly. Honestly, her ability wasn't considered top tier among the Heaven Realm talents in the Stellar Academies. She was only at the bottom because she relied on the resources provided by Feng Qingyan to raise her ability. She didn't have much battle experience. Compared to the talents from the academies who fought and completed missions all year round, her ability was much weaker. Unfortunately, she was used to living a comfortable life. In the Qingyan Society, she was second only to one person and above everyone. Most people didn't dare to offend her, so she didn't know what her ability was. In fact, many people treated it as a joke. They felt that Yuan Banlian was destroying herself. She was a talent from the Stellar Academy, but after she got close to Feng Qingyan, she became his subordinate. She had a high status in the Qingyan Society, so many people who were weaker than her treated her with respect and called her vice president. The talents from the other factions didn't dare to do anything to her either. With Feng Qingyan around, they could only turn a blind eye to Yuan Banlian. Yuan Banlian had heard some people talking about her behind her back. Their words were unsightly, but she always felt that they were jealous of her. If they met her face to face, they would have to bow respectfully. They only dared to gossip behind her back. Most of the talented martial warriors in her batch were inferior to her. Only the real top talents could stand above her. From this point of view, she had taken a lot fewer detours. As long as she successfully advanced to the universe level in the future, she would be able to surpass most martial warriors. What was so bad about that? As for eternal level, she had never thought about it. Even the president of the Qingyan Society, Feng Qingyan, was stuck at the peak of the universe stage and hadn't advanced to the eternal level. It was still unknown if he could advance to the eternal level. Thus, as long as she could reach the universe level, she had surpassed most martial warriors. Everybody had to admit that there was nothing wrong with Yuan Banlian's thinking. Her life plan was very clear. Chapter 30, 750 Arv's Eruption. Wang Teng's strength crushed. Everyone, it's been hard on you. Two dazzling and holy white light erupted from his fist. It turned into a small fist mark and slammed onto the giant claw. The faces on the giant claw froze. Then they distorted as if they were experiencing great pain. They opened their mouths as if they wanted to cry in pain, but they couldn't make any sound. It was really silent howling. Boom! Thick light constellation force swept out and submerged the giant black claw. Dazzling white light swept out. The giant black claw formed by the lazy mist disintegrated instantly. Under the purification of the light force, it disappeared in the void. How is this possible? The mid-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition's expression changed slightly. He widened his eyes as if he saw a ghost. His attack didn't work on the human martial warrior in front of him. What's more, it was defeated by his opponent's punch. How did the guy do it? Why was the guy able to resist the lazy mist? This didn't make sense, but there was no time to think. The thick and terrifying light force was sweeping towards him. The frightening fist mark gave off a powerful force, startling him. His comrade was killed by a single punch, and it was after devil transformation. He didn't dare to imagine the consequences if he got hit by this fist. Roar. The peak mid-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition roared in anger. He released the power of domain and the power of laws of origin. Black mist swept through the sky. Terrifying domain power was instilled in it. There were even strange black runes carved on it. In an instant, the black mist turned into a huge face. It was numb and hideous, and pitch-black runes were carved on the face. It was eerie. There seemed to be endless malice in the empty eye sockets as it stared intently at Wang Teng. It was chilling. The face opened its huge mouth as if it wanted to swallow everything. It swallowed the fist of light. What? Tong En's gaze flickered violently. She felt that this attack was even more terrifying than the lazy mist dark apparition after the devil transformation. There was the power of laws of origin instilled in it. It had reached a new height. Normal attacks wouldn't be able to resist it. She immediately looked at Wang Teng, only to realize that he was still maintaining his composure. There was no emotions on his face. Wasn't this fellow afraid of this attack? Also, the lazy mist power of this giant face was even more terrifying. She didn't sink into laziness again, as if she wasn't affected at all. This was Wang Teng's work. Except this possibility, she couldn't think of any other reason. Boom! The giant face finally swallowed Wang Teng's fist of light. Black mist billowed as if the darkness had swallowed the light. Under the cover of the giant face, it covered a large area of space. Wang Teng seemed exceptionally small in front of the giant face. He was like an ant looking up at a giant. Ha ha ha! The voice of the lazy mist dark apparition came from the giant face. It looked down on Wang Teng coldly and said with disdain, "Light element martial warrior, just so." "Oh really?" Wang Teng smiled gently. "Die." The lazy mist dark apparition seemed to have been angered by Wang Teng's contemptuous words. A cold voice was heard and the giant face bore down. "Explode!" Wang Teng's eyes shimmered as he said this word softly. Boom! The instant he finished speaking, a violent explosion came from within the giant face. It collapsed continuously and turned into black mist. A glaring white light shot out from the black mist and exploded in all directions. Roar! A startled and furious roar came from the face. The face was collapsing and distorting at a fast speed. It couldn't stop the holy white light at all. Everything was annihilated and purified. The lazy mist seemed to have met its nemesis in front of the light force. Devil transformation. An angry roar came from the rapidly collapsing face. The lazy mist dark apparition wanted to make one last attempt. A glaring black light erupted. It was filled with a dark and evil aura. The black mist expanded instantly as if it wanted to drown the white light. An indescribable change was brewing quickly. Death struggle. A cold glint flashed past Wang Teng's eyes. Suddenly, he sneered. Swoosh! Suddenly, chains formed from light runes shot out from the black mist. It paused for a moment before it turned into a hornet's nest. Strange light rune chains intertwined in the air, sealing off the area and giving off a terrifying power. It was extraordinary. At this moment, the light rune chains appeared like the patterns of heaven and earth, reflecting the light force in the world. Many gazes were attracted to him. Whether it was the talented martial warriors from the light universe or the dark apparition geniuses, they were all flabbergasted. They didn't expect Wang Teng to be able to release such a powerful punch. The power of laws of origin of the origin of light. There was the power of laws of origin and the origin of light in that punch. It wasn't at the first rank either. Boom! The next instant, all the light rune chains shrunk abruptly after forming a huge net. They turned into a terrifying divine presence and submerged the ball of black mist. Chapter 30, 751, Arv's Eruption. Wang Teng's strength. Crushed. Everyone, it's been hard on you. 3. No. An unwilling and angry roar came from within. It echoed in all directions and shook the space. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. Boom! A violent explosion occurred. The black mist finally exploded under the pressure of the power of laws of origin and the origin of light. White light swept out and obliterated all the dark force. Silence. There was dead silence again. Many dark apparition talents widened their eyes in shock when they saw this scene. Zarosa, who was chasing Ryuan Banlian, was filled with fear when she saw this scene. A heaven stage martial warrior who wasn't even at the peak of the stage was able to release such terrifying power. This human martial warrior gave her an extreme sense of threat. She had only met one such person so far. That was the Blood Sun. She thought that such talents were rare. Only the legendary dark apparitions could have such a monstrous talent. But now she met a second one. What's more, he existed a human martial warrior. She turned to look at the blood god clone and started comparing the two of them. However, she didn't know that the blood sun in her eyes was just a clone of this human martial warrior. Even the human martial warrior in front of her existed just a clone. Wang Teng's true form didn't even appear here. Zarosa wasn't the only one who had this thought. The other talents from the vampire race, namely Zakurs, Zasataf, Zadung, and many more, had the same thought. This was the first time they saw a talent who was on par with the Blood Sun. One could imagine their astonishment. It was the same for the other dark apparitions. They thought that having a vampire Blood Sun was rare enough. They didn't expect the human race to have another equally talented martial warrior. No wonder that Sir wanted him. If this talent continued to grow, he would be a huge threat to the dark apparitions. Wei Na, Yuan Bai, Qin Quan, Bai Yao, and the other talents from the Stellar Academy suddenly felt a little unfamiliar when they saw this familiar figure. This fellow is Wang Teng. Bai Yao moved his lips and felt his mouth turning dry. His Adam's apple moved, but he still asked in the end, "It must be him. Who else can be so monstrous?" Wei Na took a deep breath and said with a bitter smile, "You're right. We should have thought of this." Bai Yao took a deep breath. There existed a complicated look in his eyes as he shook his head uncontrollably. Monstrous. Qin Quan didn't speak much, but when he saw this scene, he couldn't help but comment. "When we first met him, who would have thought that this junior brother would surpass us so quickly? What a frightening talent," Yuan Bai lamented. "Actually, when he defeated all the freshmen in the top 10 and climbed to the top, we should have expected this day to come," Wei Na said with a complicated expression. Everyone existed speechless. They had to admit that Wei Na was right. Based on Wang Teng's performance after he entered the Stellar Academy, they could have predicted this day. No one expected this day to come so quickly. On the other side, Ryuan Banlian's face turned green and white. Then, it gradually turned gloomy. Damn it. How did he become so powerful? Isn't he a Cosmos stage martial warrior? How did he advance to the heaven realm so quickly and possess such terrifying battle power? This ability isn't something a martial warrior who just advanced to the heaven realm can possess. This pervert. Many thoughts went through her mind. She almost had a mental breakdown, especially when she saw Wang Teng's frightening ability just now. She was horrified. Everyone knew that she didn't get along with Wang Teng. Also, when Wang Teng was missing, she kept suppressing the Constellation Society, causing their relationship to become more and more strained. It was irreconcilable. How was she supposed to deal with him after seeing his frightening ability? In the past, she had only slapped Yue Kikyo, but the other party had already beaten her black and blue. He showed no mercy to the fairer sex. How would he treat her now? Wouldn't he beat her into a pig's head? She didn't doubt his ruthlessness. She shuddered in fear when she thought about that. Her entire body trembled uncontrollably. She couldn't accept this reality. It was all right if a person who was supposed to be dead came back to life. However, the other party was alive and well, and his ability had increased tremendously. God must be playing a huge joke on her. His ability. A Dehoj from the Golden Dragon race was also attracted by the situation on the other side. He turned grim. He didn't take this person to heart at first, but now the guy possessed such strength. Was Wang Teng's martial arts talent so powerful too? He had a bad feeling. This feeling wasn't because he was worried that he couldn't win. It was because he always believed that his opponent's martial arts talent was inferior to his. Now reality seemed to have slapped him hard. Chapter 3752 Arv's Eruption. Wang Teng's strength crushed. Everyone, it's been hard on you. 4. Pain, the burning pain. In Wang Teng's arms, Tong En raised her head and stared at him absent-mindedly. Once again, she found it unreal. For a moment, she was in a daze. It had only been a while since they last met, but the other party's ability had already reached this stage. She felt that the other party was much stronger than her now. A strange feeling surged into her heart. It was as if this fellow in front of her wasn't her junior brother. Instead, he was a talent on the same level as her sister. This was unbelievable. After all, when she first met Wang Teng, he had just advanced to the Cosmos realm. At the start, he was ostracized by talented martial warriors at the same level as him and forced by the Kingian Society. At that time, he was just starting out in the 7th Stellar Academy. He made enemies everywhere and was alone. Who would have thought that he was already a formidable warrior who could stand up for himself? Even universe-level martial warriors had to treat him with caution. The difference before and after was too great. She had a feeling that this fellow might become an important symbol in the Stellar Academy's history. A symbol that the people of the Academy Arbitration Association couldn't be compared to. Who dares to jump in front of me? A mid-tier devil emperor. Wasn't he looking for death? At this moment, under everyone's gaze, Wang Teng twisted his fist calmly and said in a calm voice. He looked as if he had squashed an ant to death, not the top talent of the lazy mist race who was at the peak of the mid-tier devil emperor stage. Silence. Everyone felt speechless when they heard this. What an arrogant fellow. But they had to admit that he had the right to say this. People without ability would only make a fool of themselves if they said such things. But if a capable person said this, it was a display of confidence and pride. Many talents felt that it was normal. Wang Teng didn't know what they were thinking. After killing the mid-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition with a single punch, he turned and looked at the area shrouded in black mist. Gasp! The low-tier devil emperors that surrounded the members of the Constellation Society immediately retreated in fear as if they were targeted by a terrifying presence. They didn't dare to say another word, afraid that they would follow in the footsteps of the mid-tier devil emperor. One look was enough to scare off the low-tier devil emperor dark apparitions away. This presence was a little astonishing. The martial warriors from the light universe looked at Wang Teng with respect. A heaven stage martial warrior was able to make the dark apparitions fearful. This was unbelievable. Even universe-level martial warriors couldn't do this. Mind you, dark apparitions were crazy. They rarely feared living creatures except the dark apparitions. This was something everyone knew. Yet Wang Teng managed to force them to feel fear. This was a rare thing. It wasn't easy. It could only be said that Wang Teng did what most martial warriors couldn't. He was worthy of respect. Wang Teng didn't kill the low-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparitions when he saw them evading the attacks. Instead, he looked at them with contempt and pushed his palm down. He didn't use any domain. It was just a normal palm mark, but it was formed from light constellation force. When the palm landed on the black mist, a violent explosion occurred. Boom! The thick black mist started churning violently like boiling water. Under the sweeping of the light force, it quickly collapsed. There were only a few areas in the black mist that hadn't been enveloped by the lazy mist. Yue Kikyo and the others pivoted pale. Force surged out of their bodies and formed a protective shield around the members of the Constellation Society. Most of the force in their bodies had been used up. They used up much of their force to break the black mist just now. Later on, in order to resist the invasion of the black mist, they released their forces continuously without stopping. If it wasn't for the help of the pills, they would have been waiting for death. They knew how scary the black mist was. Based on their current state, once they were touched by the black mist, they would immediately turn lazy and lose their ability to resist. All the talents felt a little dejected when they thought about this. They didn't think that they would fall in the hands of a bunch of lazy mist dark apparitions. It looked like no one could escape. Fate made a fool of them. "I shouldn't have brought you out," Yue Kikyo said with a bitter smile. Her face was pale. "What are you saying? Although I'm a little unwilling to die like this, we made this decision together. How can we blame you?" Wu Yan said. "That's right, Sister Yue. You don't have to blame yourself. We did it voluntarily. We wanted to see if dark apparition talents were as scary as the rumors say. I didn't expect it to be true. This is frustrating," Wade said casually. "Stupid fatty, do you know how to speak properly? You're elevating other people's morale while destroying your own. What's so great about dark apparitions? If the mid-tier devil emperor didn't act, we would have rushed out," Reynolds uttered angrily. "That's right, I don't know how to speak properly. What's so great about dark apparitions? I will be a hero again a few decades later. I will definitely kill them." Wade tapped his mouth and pretended to be generous. Chapter 3753 Arv's Eruption. Wang Teng's strength, crushed. "Everyone, it's been hard on you. 5. Come on, do you think you can kill all the dark apparitions with that little ability of yours? You should cultivate for another few hundred years." Wu Yan complained uncontrollably. The few of them joked around and bickered with each other. The tense atmosphere was eased a little. Actually, to talents like them, death wasn't that scary. After all, ever since they embarked on the martial arts path, they had already made this decision. If they wanted to climb to the peak, they would have to face all kinds of dangers. Death was inevitable. However, they weren't willing to die like this. They were 1 in a million talents. Even in a place like the Stellar Academy where talents gathered, not many people could be compared to them. They had a long path ahead of them. Their future shouldn't end here. If they died here, no one would accept it. Even Yu Yunxian and Lu Tian, who were normally quiet and calm in front of everything, couldn't help but feel frustrated. However, at this moment, they suddenly felt the black mist above them churning violently again. A loud explosion came from outside. Everyone was shocked. They exchanged glances with one another. "Someone is attacking the black mist. We can still be saved. We can still be saved." The members of the Constellation Society regained their senses. They were elated, hope shone in their eyes. Yue Kikyo, Tai Beisha, Beichuan Liu, Reynolds, Wu Yan, and many other talents looked up too. Hope appeared in their hearts. "Look, what's that?" someone suddenly exclaimed. Everyone's gaze flickered. They noticed the abnormality above their heads. In the thick black mist, a dazzling and holy ball of white light shone in from the outside. Then, like a pair of hands, it pushed away the thick black mist and revealed the emptiness outside. The scorching white light reflected in everyone's eyes. No one had ever felt that the light was so dazzling and holy. "Everyone, are you all right?" At this moment, a familiar voice floated in from outside. The members of the Constellation Society were stunned. They were bewildered. "I think I heard boss's voice." Wade hesitated before asking. He glanced at everyone. It wasn't that he didn't dare to say it. It was just that after their boss disappeared, everyone subconsciously blocked this topic. They silently acknowledged that their boss was still alive and didn't allow anyone to question or joke about this matter. That was why he hesitated when he heard the voice. He didn't know if he should say it. After all, when they suddenly heard the voice in this situation, they wondered if they were having an illusion before they died. What's more, everything in front of them might be an illusion. It was just an illusion they had before they died. The holy white light seemed unreal. "It sounds like Wang Teng's voice." Wu Yan took a deep breath and looked at everyone. Yu Yunxian, Lu Tian, Tai Beisha, and the others didn't say anything, but their eyes were shining brightly. They looked up, hoping to see the familiar figure. "Wang Teng." Yue Kikiao took a deep breath and muttered to herself. "What are y'all waiting for? Are y'all planning to stay inside and never come out?" The familiar voice teased them again. At the same time, the black mist above their heads dissipated, gradually revealing a familiar figure in their hearts. "Wang Teng. It's really Wang Teng, President, Boss." Shouts were heard from the Constellation Society. When they saw the figure, they finally regained their senses. There was no doubt in their hearts anymore. Their faces were filled with joy. "This fellow." Yue Kikiao raised her head and looked at the familiar figure. She felt a little jealous. Wang Teng stood in midair and looked at everyone's expression. He felt guilty and cupped his fists at them. "Everyone, thank you for your hard work." As the president, he was a little incompetent. These talents would have a better life no matter which faction they joined. However, for him, they chose to join the Constellation Society. As the president, he had a responsibility to take care of them. However, in the past, he was still too weak. He couldn't create more opportunities for them or give them more protection. He wasn't proud of himself. They were freshmen from the same batch, but he was planning to give them the chance and protection. Since they chose to follow him, he had to bear this responsibility. If not, he wouldn't have founded the Constellation Society. He wouldn't be someone who just wanted to get benefits and didn't want to put in the effort. How could there be such a good thing? Fortunately, things were different now. His martial arts ability rose tremendously, and it was enough to fight with universe-stage martial warriors. Even his secondary profession had reached the saint level. You could say that with him around, the Constellation Society wouldn't be weaker than some old factions. They might even be stronger than them. Everyone from the Constellation Society turned silent when they heard Wang Teng's words. The recognition in their eyes grew stronger as they looked at the figure. It was etched deep into their hearts, and smiles appeared on their faces. Chapter 3754 Appearance of the Dark Giant. The Dark Garuda Race, Prey. One recognition could be achieved with a single sentence. In the past, the talents from the Constellation Society acknowledged Wang Teng because of his powerful ability and monstrous talent. Now it was because of his sudden concern. It was as if they were good friends. There was no estrangement, no unfamiliarity. There was only a sense of familiarity, as if they were old friends who finally met after a long time and were suddenly overjoyed. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many figures dashed out of the black mist and arrived beside Wang Teng. The members of the Constellation Society stared at Wang Teng in disbelief. After all, anyone would have this feeling if someone who had been missing for so long suddenly emerged in front of them. Wang Teng looked at them with a smile. He didn't speak. Tong En could understand the thoughts of these talents from the Constellation Society. They felt the same way too. Yue Kikyo sized him up for some time before she opened her mouth. However, she didn't know what to say. She hesitated for a moment before replying in a soft voice, "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." This simple sentence revealed the complex emotions in her heart. The others didn't speak, but the expressions on their faces and in their eyes showed that they had complicated emotions too. Roar. At this moment, a deafening roar came from afar. It attracted the attention of all the talents from the light universe and the dark apparitions. The expressions of the members of the Constellation Society changed slightly. They gazed into the distance. Even Wang Teng squinted. He couldn't help but look in the direction of the sound. Zio Jai. This terrifying roar came from the devil mind dark apparition, Zio Jai. Ever since the blood god clone came, Wang Teng had received much information, including the grudges between him and the dark apparitions. Hence, he was familiar with the top talent of the devil mind race. However, the other party had already been defeated by the universe stage light element martial warrior. Why was there a terrifying dark fluctuation now? Under everyone's gaze, Zio Jai's sheephead devil race body, which was riddled with holes, shattered into pieces. Boom! A terrifying dark fluctuation surged out from within. Black mist churned and filled up a large patch of space. Arv squinted when he saw this scene. Suppress! He didn't want to give the other party a chance to release his full potential. He shouted abruptly. Boom! In an instant, the outline of the world of light above his head bore down on him. A scorching white light rose from the outline of the world. The entire universe seemed to have turned into a huge planet of light. It appeared in the universe. The black mist started vibrating violently. It was about to be suppressed again in front of this holy and powerful universe. Roar. At this moment, a terrifying roar came from within the black mist, shaking the air. Bang! A loud explosion was heard. The black mist burst and a huge black claw stretched out. It managed to withstand the force of the attack. Boom! Arv's universe vibrated violently and was forcefully stopped. It couldn't land anymore. His expression changed slightly. He stared at the giant black claw that broke through the black mist in disbelief. What's that? The martial warriors from the light universe squinted and exclaimed in astonishment. Wang Teng's expression changed slightly. This wasn't devil transformation, but its aura was exceptionally powerful. It wasn't the sheephead devil race's body at all. It was like a different person. Wait, a different person. Suddenly, Wang Teng understood something. His gaze flickered as he looked into the black mist. Ha ha ha, you actually forced Brother Zio Jai to use that body. A devil mind dark apparition in the distance gave an ear-piercing sneer. Many people looked at it and seemed to have heard something. They were intrigued. That body. Could it be the powerful body of another race? Everyone's expression turned grave. From the dark aura, they could tell that the devil mind race dark apparition's body mustn't be underestimated. Suppress! Arv's gaze turned cold. He shouted again and released a terrifying power from the world of light. The power of the world reverberated and bore down on Wang Teng again. No matter what body it would be suppressed by his light world projection. Boom! The giant black claw was terrifying, but Arv's managed to push it down again. The arm that was connected to the claw was bent as if it was bearing a terrifying weight. The scariest thing was, the light force kept gushing out from the world of light, endeavoring to cleanse the dark force below. The thick black mist gave off a hissing sound as it got purified by the light force. Black smoke appeared on the surface of the giant arm as if it was corroded. Get lost! But at this moment, an angry roar was heard. Bang! The next instant, another giant black claw stretched out from the black mist and blocked Arv's universe projection. Boom! The two arms seemed to contain a terrifying strength. They forcefully pushed Arv's universe shadow up. Chapter 30 755 Appearance of the Dark Giant. The Dark Garuda Race. Prey. 2. Terrifying dark force erupted from below. The black mist churned violently, and a terrifying body gradually appeared in front of everyone. Arms, shoulders, head. The humongous body gradually appeared in front of the world. It was like a real dark giant. What kind of presence was that? Its body was huge and its muscles were bulging. Its skin was dark as if it was made of metal. Strange black patterns covered its body. It was dark, distorted, and evil. An indescribable aura emanated from its body. Boom, boom, boom. As it appeared, the meteorites and constellations around it crumbled and floated in the air. Dead silence. Everyone felt suffocated when they saw the terrifying figure that suddenly appeared. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Oh my God! Even Arves had a bad feeling. He looked at the figure in astonishment. He didn't expect this devil-mind dark apparition to have such a terrifying body. It meant that the other party was joking when he used the body of the sheep-head devil race dark apparition to fight with him. The humiliation of being fooled rose in Arves's heart. He was a universe-level light element talent, so he wasn't afraid of dark apparitions. Yet he was belittled and humiliated by a devil-mind dark apparition. This was too much. At this moment, the terrifying dark giant suddenly turned its head and looked at Arves. Boom! Arves was flabbergasted. He felt an indescribable evilness seeping out of the other party's eyes and sweeping towards him. There was only one eyeball on the dark giant's head. It was huge and dark red in color. It was like a crimson full moon hanging high in the sky. Endless crimson light engulfed it. Strange, chaotic, evil, disorderly. Arves was the first to bear the brunt. His spirit suffered a huge impact as if it was going to get tainted by the dark force. However, he was still a light element universe-level talent, so his talent was extremely powerful. His expression changed slightly, and the light force in his body started circulating. Boom! An extreme light conscious erupted from his body and engulfed his entire body. The evil dark conscious was finally dispersed. Pant! Arves panted heavily as he gazed at the terrifying dark giant in astonishment, but at the same time, cries of agony suddenly sounded around them. Many talented martial warriors clutched their heads and went crazy. Their eyes had turned crimson and their faces were distorted. They didn't look human anymore. Black patterns appeared on their faces as if they were contaminated. Oh no! Some stronger martial warriors' expressions turned ugly when they saw this scene. Everything happened too quickly. Before everyone could react, many of them had already been hit, but they couldn't be blamed. This strange change came from the dark giant's eyes and gaze. It was impossible to guard against it. This wasn't the first time this had happened. But they couldn't guard against it in time, especially for weaker martial warriors. One look and they would get contaminated. How could they guard against it? They couldn't defend themselves at all. Damn it, what is this? A universe stage martial warrior asked with an ugly expression. Adehoj Yulujin and the other top talents stared at the dark giant grimly. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. Although they were all at the same level, the fluctuations exuded by the dark giant still frightened them. Ha ha ha! A peal of laughter came out from the devil-mind dark apparition's mouth. This is Dark Garuda. You forced Brother Xiaojai to use this body. You're seeking death. Dark Garuda. The talents from the light universe were bewildered when they heard this. They had never heard of this dark apparition before. But from the devil-mind dark apparition's tone, it wasn't hard to tell that this was a terrifying dark apparition. Was there such a presence among the dark apparitions? All the talents in the light universe came from the powerful factions. They had more information about the dark apparitions than ordinary martial warriors. However, they had never heard of this race. It was unbelievable. It's the Dark Garuda race. It wasn't just the talents from the light universe. Even the talents from the dark apparitions were in disbelief. They stared at the terrifying dark giant from afar. They couldn't believe that this creature would appear here. Xiaojai managed to control a body of the Dark Garuda race. How did he do it? The top talent of the Devil Armor race, Giazidi, took a deep breath and exclaimed in astonishment. The Dark Garuda race, the terrifying race in the legends, it said that this race was born in the Darkland. No one knows how they were born, we only know that there's this race. Xiaojai, what a terrifying fellow, the top talent of the Phantasma race, Yuan Shenao muttered to herself. Her green eyes flickered violently. This is scary. Isn't he afraid of the revenge of the Dark Garuda race? A top talent from the Lazy Mist race exclaimed in shock. This race is mysterious and extremely rare. Who knows how he got it? A top-tier talent, Dark Apparition from the Devil Rock race, shook his head. The other vampire talents were flabbergasted too. It took them a long time to regain their senses. They took much effort to pull their gazes away from the Dark Apparition before turning to look at the Blood God clone. How could the Blood Sun fight with Xiaojai, who possessed such a horrifying body? But soon they realized that the Blood God clone's expression was extremely calm. Only his eyes were shimmering with a strange light, as if he was looking at a special prey. Yes, that gaze was as if he saw a prey. The vampire talents were stunned. They were puzzled and found it unbelievable. They even suspected that they were seeing things. They blinked and continued sizing up the Blood God clone's gaze. As expected, he was still the same. He really treated Xiaojai as his prey. All the vampire talents were speechless. They didn't know if they should say that the Blood Sun was bold or fearless. Was it because the Blood Sun didn't know this race? This thought appeared in the minds of the dark apparitions like Zarosa, Zalanbo, and Zanier. Unfortunately, they didn't know that the Blood God clone was extremely interested in this race. Wang Teng had even seen this frightening race before. He saw it during the battle at the Secondary Career Alliance's headquarters. At that time, the Devil God used the Dark Altar to summon a terrifying dark giant. At that time, Wang Teng didn't know what it was, but now he understood. It was a member of the Dark Garuda race, and it was many times more terrifying than the one Xiaojai was using. In comparison, Xiaojai's body was like a child's. To others, it might be terrifying, but to Wang Teng, it was just an excellent provider of attribute bubbles. It was undeniable that the Dark Garuda race was extremely rare. He was able to see them at the Secondary Career Alliance's headquarters and thought that it would be hard to see them again. Yet, Xiaojai allowed him to see them again. He wanted to thank him. No one noticed that it wasn't just the Blood God clone. Even Wang Teng's light clone was starting to get interested. Their gazes were the same, as if they saw an interesting prey. Xiaojai, who had activated the Dark Garuda body, suddenly felt a chill. He didn't know what happened. Chapter 3756, A Strategic Retreat. The perfected stage of Dark Constellation Force. Another leap in strength. The array is about to be done. Xiaojai turned his huge head. His single crimson eye spun furiously. Veins of blood could be seen clearly. It was a strange sight. At this moment, most of the martial warriors didn't dare to look at its eyes. They were afraid of getting contaminated by the dark and evil power. Only the talented martial warriors from powerful factions dared to look at the dark giant. However, they only looked at it and not its single eye. Xiaojai scanned his surroundings and quickly found the source of the evil intention. His huge single eye was fixed on Wang Teng's light clone. The malice in it was almost tangible. Unfortunately, it didn't affect Wang Teng at all. He continued sizing up the other party with interest without hiding anything. However, the members of the Constellation Society couldn't withstand the gaze and closed their eyes. The spiritual power in their minds churned furiously to resist the evil spiritual power. Tong En was curious and thought that she could look at the eyeball with her heaven realm ability. She only wanted to take a look, but the gaze inside the eyeball was so terrifying. Her face turned pale and a terrifying and evil spiritual fluctuation invaded her mind. She almost lost her mind. Don't look at it. At this moment, A gentle voice entered her ears. She felt refreshed. A comfortable and clean energy swept through her mind like a warm and broad hand caressing her skin. The frightening evil aura was dissipated and disappeared without a trace. Tong En blushed slightly. When she lowered her head, she glanced at Wang Teng's face from the corner of her eyes. "You're looking for death," a loud roar came from the dark giant's mouth. It had obviously sensed where the evil intention came from. It was the Heaven Lord stage human martial warrior. The other party looked at him as if he was looking at his prey. Xiao Jai felt humiliated. He was the only one who treated others as his prey. No one had ever treated him as their prey. What's more, the other party was just a Heaven Lord stage human martial warrior. In Xiao Jai's eyes, he was nothing. This was the real reason why he was furious. Xiao Jai's sudden anger astounded the talents from the light universe and the dark apparitions. What was going on? Why didn't this dark giant shout at Arves who was suppressing him? Why was it shouting at someone unrelated? Did it have such a huge grudge against Wang Teng? Even Arves didn't know what to do. At first, he was furious. He felt that this devil-mind dark apparition belittled him. However, when he saw this scene, he didn't know where to vent his anger. For some reason, ever since Wang Teng appeared, he sensed that this battle would go astray from time to time. The vampire dark apparitions some distance away had strange expressions on their faces. They noticed Wang Teng's gaze, and a similar feeling appeared in their hearts. They couldn't help but glance back and forth between the blood god clone and Wang Teng's light clone. If they didn't appear at the same time, no one would compare them. But at this moment, both of them appeared at the same time and they were the center of attention. It was hard not to notice them, especially the vampire dark apparitions. They were already paying close attention to the blood god clone, so when Xiao Jai roared at Wang Teng's light clone, it attracted their attention. Naturally, they noticed the similarities immediately. However, this similarity was very unusual. They looked similar, but there were differences too. After all, one was the blood son of the vampire race, the top talent among the dark apparitions, while the other was the top talent of the light universe. Even if everybody racked their brains out, they wouldn't think that those two were the clones of the same person. However, the vampire talent still found it strange. They didn't mind if the blood son dared to look at Xiao Jai like this. After all, he had the blood god altar, so he wasn't afraid of him. They were worried that the blood son couldn't be compared to Xiao Jai, but they had some confidence in him. However, they didn't know Wang Teng's light clone. They didn't understand where this heaven stage martial warrior got his confidence from. All in all, they didn't think that Wang Teng's light clone could defeat the blood god clone. Wang Teng's light clone didn't know what everyone was thinking. He only responded calmly when he heard the dark giant's angry roar. "Why are you shouting so loudly? Come and hit me if you dare." Boom! A glaring red light shot out of Xiao Jai's eyes. He was infuriated. He pushed his palms up. The entire world of light vibrated as if it couldn't withstand the terrifying power of the dark giant. At the same time, the terrifying dark force exuded from the dark giant's body swept towards the outline of the light world above and collided with the thick light force. This time, the light force released by the world of light was pushed upwards by the dark force. It kept shrinking. The dark force corroded the light around them. The entire space turned dark. It seemed to have turned extremely dark. All the light around were absorbed. The dark giant seemed to be holding up a real world. Chapter 3757, A Strategic Retreat. The perfected stage of dark constellation force. Another leap in strength. The array is about to be done. 2. Arves was so frustrated he wanted to vomit blood. Why was he the one bearing the consequences every moment Wang Teng angered him? This was unfair. However, Xiao Jai didn't care. Anyone that blocked his path would be swept away by him. This light element universe-level talent was the same. Boom! The dark force churned and corroded the light world projection. Damn it! Arvs's expression changed slightly. He found it unbelievable. His light world projection was corroded by the dark force, and the edge was collapsing on a large scale. He didn't have the moment to think. He released his light force again, and strange light runes appeared on the world projection. They intertwined like chains. Swoosh! The sound of chains vibrating resounded in the air. The shadow of the world of light gave off a holy and powerful fluctuation. It shone brightly and wanted to suppress the dark giant again. Unfortunately, it didn't succeed this time. Roar! A loud roar was heard. The black mist around the dark giant congregated and turned into strange runes. They turned into chains and wrapped around its gigantic body, as if it was carrying the patterns of heaven and earth on its back. A terrifying strength erupted from his body. His arms expanded and his muscles bulged out. He exerted force on the outline of the world of light above his head. Boom! The shadow of the world rose into the air and was forcefully lifted up by the other party. Then, the dark giant clenched his fist and hurled it upwards. A terrifying dark fist mark shot out like a dark constellation. It soared through the universe. Boom! A deafening explosion was heard. Arvs's expression changed entirely. Before he could think further, the terrifying dark fist mark had already slammed into the outline of his world of light. Crack, crack, crack. A few clear cracking sounds were heard. Terrifying cracks appeared on the outline of the world of light. A huge hole seemed to have appeared in the dazzling white light. This was a scene caused by the corrosion of the dark force. Arvs was thrown back. He was flabbergasted. He knew that the dark giant was terrifying, but he didn't expect it to be this terrifying. He took a deep breath and his gaze turned serious. He took a deep breath and prepared to use a stronger move. However, at this moment, his ears moved as if he heard something. He gazed at Wang Teng abruptly. Wang Teng nodded at him. Arvs's gaze flickered. There seemed to be a strange glint in his eyes. He didn't say much and controlled his universe shadow to retreat, evading the attack of the dark giant. Die! Xiao Jai thought that Arvs was an arrow at the end of its flight and didn't have any stronger moves. He shouted and controlled his huge body as he charged towards Arvs. Arvs didn't fight them head-on. Instead, he retreated in a certain direction while fighting. The top talents in the light universe are nothing. The dark giant opened its giant mouth and let out a thunderous roar. It was loud enough for everyone to hear. The talents from the light universe were shocked. They didn't understand why Arvs suddenly retreated. Could it be that he couldn't defeat his opponent? But even if he couldn't win, he shouldn't have run away. This wasn't his style. Many talents knew Arvs well. They had never seen him running away when he was facing a powerful opponent. But now this situation had occurred. It was astonishing. Ha ha ha. The dark apparitions burst out laughing when they saw this scene. The laughter spread like wildfire. Instantly, all the dark apparitions burst out laughing. Their mockery almost covered the entire space. Arvs's face turned black. He had never suffered such humiliation. He stared intently at Wang Teng and continued retreating without any words. A funny scene appeared in space. The dark giant was chasing Arvs and attacking him continuously. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions resounded in the air. The dark giant punched Arvs again and again, trying to destroy his universe projection. However, the effects were minimal when Arvs tried to hide. Do you only know how to dodge? Xiao Jai was getting impatient. He bellowed in anger. Arvs ignored him and continued heading deeper into the flaming meteorite planetary sector. What's going on? Adehoj, Yulujin, and the other talents exchanged glances with one another and frowned slightly. They didn't understand what Arvs wanted to do. At this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in their minds. They were stunned for a moment before a sharp glint appeared in their eyes. The voice didn't just appear in their minds. It also appeared in the minds of all the talents in the light universe. Everyone was stunned. Then they looked in a certain direction. This was Wang Teng's light clone. A sharp glint appeared in their eyes. A tinge of hope appeared in their hearts. He did have a backup plan. Arves wasn't running away. He was retreating strategically. Many thoughts appeared in everyone's mind. With Wang Teng's reminder, they remained silent and started fighting with the dark apparitions again. Chapter 3758, A Strategic Retreat. The perfected stage of dark constellation force. Another leap in strength. The array is about to be done. 3. However, this time, they didn't fight the dark apparitions head-on. Instead, they circled around them and retreated deep into the flaming meteorite planetary sector. The dark apparitions noticed the problem too. All the talents from the light universe withdrew deep into the flaming meteorite planetary sector. There was nothing wrong with this. They're trying to escape. The blood god clone's eyes lit up. He looked at the sheephead devil race dark apparition in the distance. The other party immediately comprehended and shouted, "Don't let them escape, chase them." A giant devil race dark apparition roared in anger. "Geniuses of the light universe, you can't run away. All of you will die here today." On the other side, the dark apparitions from the devil moth race were screaming too. Under the encouragement of these 3 dark apparitions, the other dark apparitions didn't think too much and chased after the talents from the light universe. Trying to run away, the blood god clone roared in anger and shouted, "Vampires, kill them." His cold and indifferent voice sounded as if he wanted to exterminate all the talents in the light universe. Boom. Boom. Then he assaulted directly. A blood-red claw mark and a dark-red fist mark flew towards Adehoj and Eulogian respectively. He had to put on a good show. Damn it! Adehoj and Eulogian's expressions changed slightly. There was a sharp glint in their eyes when they looked at the blood god clone. This vampire dark apparition was too slippery. When they were fighting with him just now, they wanted to kill him, but he always dodged their attacks and didn't fight with them face to face. Now, when he saw them retreating into the depths of the flaming meteorite planetary sector, he attacked them instead. He was like a plaster. Bang, bang. The 2 of them attacked at the same time and destroyed the blood god clone's attack. Then they forcefully suppressed the killing intent in their hearts and continued retreating deeper into the flaming meteorite planetary sector. "Don't run, you cowards," the blood god clone shouted as he attacked. Adehoj and Eulogian's faces turned black. Universe-level talents like them were respected by their factions and were never afraid of battles. Yet they were called cowards by a mid-tier devil emperor vampire dark apparition. What a humiliation. However, for the sake of their big plan, they couldn't retaliate. They needed to head deeper into the flaming meteorite planetary sector as soon as possible. They felt so frustrated they wanted to vomit blood. On the other side, Zhuolongyi turned and glanced at Wang Teng after hearing his words. This time he didn't refute him. He silently retreated into the depths of the flaming or planetary sector. Roar! The high-tier devil emperor roared in anger and chased after Zhuolongyi relentlessly. Their huge bodies soared through the sky. It was a majestic sight. A pitch-black tentacle swept out from the bloated body of the giant devil race dark apparition. It wanted to entangle Zhuolongyi. However, Zhuolongyi didn't continue fighting with him. He was focused on retreating deeper into the flaming meteorite planetary sector. His huge body was surprisingly agile as he evaded the tentacles. He was like a slippery eel. Wang Teng's light clone retracted his gaze with a strange expression. He was finally at ease when he saw the other party putting down his pride and cooperating with him. He was afraid that Zhuolongyi wouldn't understand. Fortunately, the guy didn't fumble the ball at the crucial moment. Of course, he guessed that the dark apparition understood how scary the giant devil race dark apparition was. After the exchange of blows just now, Zhuolongyi couldn't do anything to him at all. Instead, he got beaten up badly. If they continued fighting, the giant devil race dark apparition might suffer, but Zhuolongyi would be in a worse state. Wang Teng shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He glanced around him and released his spiritual kinesis to pick up the attribute bubbles. Actually, he had been picking up attribute bubbles since the start. All kinds of force and spirit attributes merged into his body so that he could continue carving the array. Now, the rune array was almost completed. That was why he asked the talents from the light universe to retreat deeper into the flaming meteorite planetary sector. It was time to send these dark apparitions to hell. Things might change if they dragged too long. He mustn't let other variables appear. He must get rid of these dark apparitions quickly. He released his spiritual kinesis and picked up all the attribute bubbles on the battlefield. Of course, this wasn't the work of the light clone alone. Wang Teng's other clones were hiding in the dark and picking up attribute bubbles frantically. As the force attributes merged into Wang Teng's body, all his attributes rose rapidly. Boom, boom, boom. Silent explosions echoed in Wang Teng's body continuously without stopping. A strange and powerful force fluctuation rose within Wang Teng's body. It was rising rapidly. Round Ball and Isith were flabbergasted when they saw this scene. Wang Teng's ability rose again. What's more, all his forces rose simultaneously. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, poison, ice, light, darkness. He didn't miss any of the 11 forces. Gasp! Both of them gasped. They found it unbelievable. Wang Teng had only advanced to the heaven realm for a short time, but he was already advancing. How did he do it? Wang Teng didn't care about their astonishment. Chapter 30, 759, A Strategic Retreat. The perfected stage of dark constellation force. Another leap in strength. The array is about to be done. 4. At this moment, the changes in his body were earth-shattering. This battle was no weaker than any other battles he had faced. The talents from the light universe, as well as the dark apparitions, were great attribute bubbles for Wang Teng. The number of attribute bubbles they dropped was astonishing. Of course, the dark force was the most abundant. It surged into Wang Teng's body without stopping. It was majestic. His thick force meridians felt a little swollen. If his physique wasn't powerful enough, he wouldn't have been able to withstand it. Normal martial warriors wouldn't be able to absorb all these forces at once. Wang Teng's dark constellation force rose continuously, from the first level of the heaven realm to the second level, third level, fourth level, all the way to the 9th level. Finally, it reached the perfected stage. This was an enormous leap. It jumped from the initial heaven realm to the peak of the heaven realm. It was terrifying just thinking about it. Only people from powerful factions were able to achieve this leap within a short time by using large amounts of resources. Even so, they spent much more time than Wang Teng. One day, just one day. No, it could even be uttered that he advanced within an hour. How insane was this? Even some eternal stage martial warriors wouldn't expect this to happen. Most importantly, there were no repercussions after absorbing the force. It was the purest form of energy. It merged into Wang Teng's body and turned into his force after he absorbed it. Other martial warriors wouldn't be able to be so pure even if they used immaculate crystals. There would definitely be impurities that couldn't be detected. This impurity accumulated uncontrollably after absorbing too much energy at once. It went from being imperceptible to a little more. Thus, it couldn't be compared to Wang Teng's absorption. After some time, the dark constellation force in Wang Teng's body calmed down and stabilized at the perfected stage of the Heaven Lord realm. Dark constellation force, 90,009,0000, 9th level Heaven realm. He glanced at the attributes board without any emotions on his face. He wasn't in a hurry to be happy because his other forces were still increasing. Besides the dark constellation force, the 5-element constellation forces rose the most. The constellation force of the 5 elements was the most common, so there were the most attribute bubbles. Wang Teng got all the benefits. Metal constellation force, 45,006,0000, 6th level Heaven realm. Wood constellation force, 51,60000, 6th level Heaven Realm. Water Constellation Force, 62,70000, 7th level Heaven Realm. Fire Constellation Force, 55,808,000, 8th level Heaven Realm. Earth Constellation Force, 53,70000, 7th level Heaven Realm. All the attributes of the 5 elements had reached the late-stage Heaven Realm. They were all above the 6th level. Among them, the Fire Constellation Force was the highest. It had reached the 8th level of the Heaven Realm. This was because he had already raised his Fire Constellation Force to the 6th level of the Heaven Real. It wasn't difficult for to reach the 8th level Nav then. There was the Water Constellation Force and the Earth Constellation Force. They had reached the 7th level of the Heaven Realm. It was a fast rise. Finally, Wang Teng looked at the other special force attributes. Light Constellation Force, 35,40000, 4th level Heaven Realm. Constellation Wind Force, 21,40000, 4th level Heaven Realm. Lightning Constellation Force, 32,505,000, 5th level Heaven Realm. Ice Constellation Force, 41,505,000, 5th level Heaven Realm. Poison Constellation Force, 31,104,000, 4th level Heaven Realm. These special force attributes rose tremendously too. They were all at the 4th level and above of the Heaven Realm. Among them, the lightning and ice attributes were at the 5th level. They couldn't be compared to the 5 basic elements, but it was good enough. Wang Teng's ability underwent another huge change. The force in his body was a few hundred times thicker than before. This was a good thing for him. With this thick force, he could execute some powerful skills. For instance, universe-level battle techniques and eternal-level battle techniques required an enormous amount of force. If Wang Teng's force wasn't strong enough, he wouldn't be able to execute them. Even if he executed it, it would be a defective product. Its power was far from its real form. Of course, the universe-level and eternal-level battle techniques he executed previously were defective too. They couldn't be compared to the real universe-level and eternal-level battle techniques. These battle techniques were named after the stage of a martial warrior, because only the corresponding martial warrior could release their full potential. Besides force attributes, Wang Teng also received many spirit attributes. However, he was at the perfected Heaven Realm, so he couldn't raise it temporarily. He could only replenish all the spiritual power he used up. In an instant, he felt that his mind was no longer in a daze. His pale face had recovered, and he seemed to have returned to his peak state. What astounded him was, he had a comfortable feeling coming from the depth of his soul and body. This was the extreme feeling brought about by the rise in his origin of life and origin of soul. Origin of life, 335,505,000, origin of soul, 375,500,000. Wang Teng glanced at the attributes board and was even more astounded. His origin of soul and origin of life had gotten stronger. What's more, there was a huge increase. He looked at the changes on his attributes board. His origin of soul was close to 400,000 points. He didn't expect so many origin of soul and origin of life to drop during this war, but this made his heart even heavier. He had already done many things and was prepared to kill the dark apparitions, but he couldn't guarantee that none of the talents in the light universe would die. That was unrealistic. This was a war. What's more, it was a high-class battle. To any ordinary life planet, the arrival of any one of the martial warriors would be a catastrophe. That was why this war was uncontrollable. Death was inevitable. Wang Teng could only minimize the death rate and keep most of the dark apparitions here forever. Swoosh. The next instant, Wang Teng opened his eyes abruptly. He didn't count the other attribute bubbles. He had replenished his spiritual power. It was time to complete the last step of carving the array. Invisible fluctuations spread out from his forehead. He stood up abruptly and flew towards various parts of the flaming meteorite. Under the influence of his spiritual kinesis, more and more runes appeared on the ground. They were dense, complicated, and occult. The entire flaming meteor seemed to have turned into a rune planet. If anyone saw this scene, they would be flabbergasted. He wanted the entire flaming meteorite to become the core of the array. He wanted the frightening energy on the flaming meteorite to be used for the operation of the array. Round Ball and Isith were flabbergasted. One was a blacksmith at the peak of the Grandmaster level, while the other was once at the Immortal level. They were familiar with rune arrays, so they quickly understood what was going on. Wang Teng had already carved runes on the entire flaming meteorite. No matter how stupid they would be able to see the problem. They couldn't imagine how terrifying the array would be if it succeeded. However, no matter how curious they were, they didn't dare to disturb Wang Teng. They were afraid that any sound would cause him to make a mistake. Chapter 30, 760, Phantasma Race Divine Spirit Master, Phantasma Realm, Strange Space. 1. While Wang Teng was carving the array, the light clone led the members of the Constellation Society deep into the flaming meteorite planetary sector. Many dark apparitions were afraid of the light clone, so they didn't dare to stop it. A dark apparition at the peak of the Devil Emperor stage wasn't his match. Normal dark apparitions would be seeking death if they fought with him. This caused a special scene to appear around the members of the Constellation Society. No dark apparitions dared to come close within a few thousand meters of them. It was like a vacuum, silence. The members of the Constellation Society were speechless. They were here to fight. Why did all the dark apparitions run away? They were afraid of these dark apparitions, but as talents, they weren't willing to be protected. There's no hurry. There will be time for you to kill your enemies later. The light clone smiled when he saw the strange expressions on their faces. He used voice transmission. Yue Kikiao, Yu Yunxian, and the others were stunned for a moment. Then they nodded secretly. They already knew that there was a trump card here, and Wang Teng definitely knew something about it. Thus, when they heard what he said, they opted to believe him. He was also curious what the powerful martial warriors on the Solar Dragon planet were preparing here. They didn't know that Wang Teng was the mastermind behind everything. After all, in everyone's mind, Wang Teng was still their peer. Also, how was able to one person resist so many powerful dark apparitions? But they seemed to have forgotten about the monstrosity that Wang Teng displayed normally. To him, anything was possible. Take these pills. They will help you to recover faster. The light clone noticed everyone's pale face and took out some pills. He waved his hand and the pills landed in everyone's hands. These pill medicines were given to the clones by Wang Teng's true form. All his clones had them. In case that these talents got injured, they could recover in time. He couldn't take care of all the people, but he should assist those who he was familiar with. Fortunately, his notions were useful. Looking at Yue Kikiao and the others, they must be exhausted from the black mist. If he acted a little later, he would have collected their corpses. It was Tong En's fault for not reminding him earlier. Otherwise, he would have saved the members of the Constellation Society. If Tong En knew what the light clone was complaining about, she would probably scold him. She was stunned by what happened just now. Was it her fault? If anyone was to be blamed, it was Wang Teng, the instigator. Anyone would be stunned by the sudden appearance of a missing person. Also, she wasn't the only one. At that time, everyone was stunned. If she didn't rush over to save them, Yue Kikiao and the others would be in a worse state. She couldn't save the members of the Constellation Society, but she managed to buy some time. At this moment, the members of the Constellation Society saw the pill medicine and their eyes lit up. They had a deep understanding of Wang Teng's alchemy mastery. The pill medicines they used were all made by Wang Teng, and the effects were amazing. Those were many times better than the pill medicines made by Grandmaster alchemists in the Stellar Academy. It was hard to buy a single pill. The other factions in the Academy were always complaining, especially after Wang Teng disappeared. Many of them were gloating, but the members of the Constellation Society knew that they were just jealous. On the surface, they looked at him with disdain, but in the dark, they were doing everything they could to get a pill made by the boss. What else could they be if they weren't jealous? Unfortunately, the people who could join the Constellation Society were all vetted by Yue Kikiao. They wouldn't sell their pills. What's more, the members of the Constellation Society didn't even have enough for themselves. Why would they sell the pills? They weren't stupid. Thus, outsiders could only salivate. The members of the Constellation Society felt refreshed. They felt a sense of superiority. This was a sense of superiority born from being a member of the Constellation Society. This indirectly strengthened everyone's recognition of the Constellation Society and their unity. Especially after Wang Teng became the 7th-class saint, their unity became stronger. Even after knowing that Wang Teng was missing, everyone still persevered. They knew that as long as Wang Teng was around, the Constellation Society would continue to be glorious and dazzling. They were all waiting for Wang Teng to come back. Anyone who could enter the Constellation Society would be able to withstand this short test. Those who couldn't would have been kicked out by Yue Kikiao. The Constellation Society was undoubtedly more united than before. The members of the Constellation Society immediately felt the weakness in their bodies disappearing after consuming the pills. Even some of the injured people recovered greatly after consuming the pills. The effects of the pills were as reliable as ever. The light clone scanned the crowd and suddenly frowned. He fixed his gaze on one of the martial warriors. "You still have the lazy mist dark apparition's lazy mist on you." He looked at Tai Beisha and said, "I got hit by the mid-tier devil emperor lazy mist dark apparition." Tai Beisha nodded. She was a light element martial warrior, but she was only at the cosmos realm. She was also injured, so she couldn't remove the lazy mist in her body. She could only suppress it forcefully. She was fine for now, but if she dragged on for too long, she would definitely be corroded by the power of the lazy mist.